Welcome to 20th Century Geek. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 20th Century Geek. This is Scott Weatherly, your usual host, and I'm joined once again by the comic book guys.
Yes.
Do you introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Matt Reed.
And I'm Jordan.
We are the comic book guys.
Yeah. You are. This is official. You are 20th Century Geeks comic book guys.
Ah, yes.
Oh, right, okay.
That's
So
good.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So you get rolled in, and so like you're the sort of regular host. Mike is just sort of like he's more like the film and horror
Yeah.
guy. So you're my comic book guy.
So this is like the only place I've ever carried authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
If
good.
you want, I can get you badges.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
That's great.
lanyards and yeah.
Yes, you get a lanyard.
Yeah.
Great. It's all very official.
Yeah.
So in the last episode, I interviewed or spoke with Julian Darris of Sequat to celebrate 30 years of The Killing Joke. So we're going to continue that theme, and we're going to talk about everything and anything Joker. So what we love about the Joker, best comics, best films, everything, just anything Joker. I thought it's worth him stepping into the sort of like into the centre stage and just getting some attention for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean he's probably comics' biggest villain going. Like at least most famous and most popular, probably.
It's probably true, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. I can't really think of anyone else that. I mean, if you say to someone, the amount of conversations at the shop, sort of, who's your favourite villain, and then before they say, you're like, but not the Joker,
Yeah.
because that's the standard. Goes without saying.
Yeah. You like to say, he is the A-list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just Batman, but like I said,
Just general
across the board. Like, I don't think there's anybody on the villain side that sort of like is that
No.
Yeah.
level. But why is that then? Why do you think it's not comparable to anybody else? I mean, he hasn't got superpowers, has he?
No.
I mean, how many of them are actually a bit scary?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I suppose, as well with the films are big, and people like, how many villains have been famous for as long as he has? So you've got like Lex Luthor, you've got the Penguin, Catwoman, the Riddler, and the Joker.
Yeah.
And these have all been around since the 60s, the 70s. But I mean, obviously there's more that have been around that long. But on TV, and I mean, even you look at, say, the Hulk, which was popular when it was TV series and anything like that. I mean, I can't think of a single villain from the Hulk that would have been in the TV series, especially the Wonder Woman series. I don't know if there was many.
Well, I don't know if, like you say, I don't know if there's anything that any hero has got a villain that is as
Iconic.
iconic.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And he looks iconic. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's identifiable.
Yeah, he's easily whittled down to symbols.
But I mean, he's sort of a culmination of fears, isn't he? Because a lot of people are afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
So ticks that box. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Tick that box. Unpredictable.
Yeah.
He laughs at things that no one should laugh at.
Yeah.
And that is scary. And there's times where, but at the same time, if you're just reading it and stuff, you love to hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's funny. I mean, look at like Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
People loved Heath Ledger as a Joker, and there are bits that are like, even though what he's doing is horrific, it's hilarious. Like when he slams that guy's head on the pencil.
Yeah.
It's funny. You laugh, and he's just killed someone.
Yeah. Blowing up the hospital. Like
Yeah,
pressing the button.
Yeah.
Blowing up a hospital.
It's just like there's nothing worse you could do, really.
That's
and
true.
You're just like, hey,
you
it just makes it funny.
It's
Like, I think that's what's so good about him being a clown as well. Like, it's just like you've got that sort of juxtaposition of just like something being funny and then something being so horrific, and like I think people are scared of clowns because of that in the first place. But he's just sort of like turns that up to 11, and the fact that like you're just not sure where you are with him at any given time.
Something about the Joker, you forget he's a clown.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no, he's not a circus clown, is he?
No.
He's sort of a stylish clown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Very
Yeah, he's
weird.
not red nose. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not Pennywise.
He's not
No.
dancing clown.
It's
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
He's got to be one of the most famous clowns, like
Yeah.
in general. Like,
Yeah.
like when you think.
But
of
if you
clowns.
said to someone, name a famous clown,
Yeah.
I don't know as the Joker would come to mind because he's sort of beyond clown.
yeah,
Yeah. He is. I mean, he is the comic book villain.
yeah,
But like I say, is he a clown?
yeah.
He's the clown prince of crime. But like I say,
Yeah.
he's not a clown, is he?
No.
So
He's probably like the origin of that sort of like the creepy sort of killer clown sort of like idea that we've sort of come to now, like because like you say, like you can see his face, like he's got the paint and everything, sort of thing, but like, you know, when the actual like classic like circus clowns and like the jovial side of it kind of disappears. Like
he's based on the playing card, isn't he?
Well,
yeah.
it's based on two things. It's
the laughing.
It's based on the man who laughs.
Yeah.
Who was from a silent film, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
an early like horror film with a guy who had like a rictus grin.
Yeah, it was never like the film was never released, was it?
I don't know. I've seen
No, I don't
images.
know if it was out of the
like,
cinema, maybe.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no. I
never
mean, this is
been-
like the 30s or 20s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
really
yeah.
sort of like, and that
You can
I've
see, can't you, when you look at the
Oh yeah,
picture,
if you look at the
the
image,
famous picture.
if you look at those images, it's definitely it's a real influence on that. Well, no, not even influence. It's blatantly
That's where it
taken
came
from that.
Yeah.
And then you can see that Jerry Robinson's gone that, and then the Joker's in like
Yeah.
from a playing
Yeah.
card and just put them together, and you get
yeah,
that character.
But it's one. I mean, he's probably one of the first sort of crazy supervillains without being superpowered. I mean, what did Superman have any?
Well, yeah, it's funny you
sort
say that actually, because I've been doing a lot of. I'm getting ready for the big Superman thing, and reading all this stuff about those early comics. Up until that point, Superman's first villains were very much like mad scientists.
Just like,
or
yeah.
there was some alien things thrown in there, or it was like really really big, really small, like some sort of slumlord or something.
yeah,
And it didn't really come along, and like the other aliens and Mr. Mixup-Licks and all those others did not come along till much later. So yeah, really, as a villain, I think the Joker is
I mean, I suppose
a turning point.
it's like the ones they had, like Hugo Strange was before. Am I right in that? I think.
I think Hugo Strange's detective. I mean, the Joker turns up in Batman #1,
Batman #1,
1940,
which I think was like they'd had 15 issues by then or something.
Yeah.
So, and there was like the Mad Monk.
Yeah, you'd had some sort of
That was sort of, I suppose, a bit of a character, but still, it was like beyond. It wasn't really the same sort of. And none of them are really around now. It's the only one that's still about.
no.
Either way.
It's because and he hasn't changed.
No.
Not really, no.
I mean, I think the Joker is one of those characters that, bizarrely, is probably the most versatile, but without changing. He never. You can always accept him as the same Joker.
Yeah.
But he could come in and he could be like the Heath Ledger, chaos lunatic.
Yeah.
Or he could be the sort of like the prankster from Batman the Brave and the Bold cartoon.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they're both that
in there.
person.
Yeah, I think that's what makes him so like you say, he's unpredictable. Like he wakes up and he could be any of those things. Like there's a huge scale of what he can be, and like
He's a timeless horror.
Yeah,
He's just- And
Yeah.
and the fact that you could believe that he could be like any of them at any point. So he could be 1966 Batman Joker one day, and then halfway through it, just brutally murder someone, laugh it off, and you just feel violated watching it. Like, what the hell was happening?
Weirdly, I've always felt that. When you watch the 66 Batman, so when you watch the Cesar Romero Joker, because again, I love that version of the Joker because it's so incredibly silly.
Yeah.
But there is almost like an undertone with the way he plays it.
Yeah.
That maybe off screen he does beat kittens. He is incredible.
Yeah.
He's like woohoo,
Yeah.
smack, and he's like crazy. But then I think, but you probably are like branding, puppies.
Still,
just
feels
for
like
fun.
it could be
Yeah.
him, doesn't it?
There's still under sort of like underscore of menace.
I think, I mean, those 66 sort of villains, they're all very like, obviously very camp, but they aren't too far off any of them what they are now.
No.
Really, like the Riddler.
Well, the Frank Gorshin Riddler was totally ripped off by Jim Carrey. Literally, it was lift and shift.
Yeah.
Someone else plays it.
Yeah. I mean, we've not had any other versions
No.
other than that, and the costume is still.
Yeah, I mean, it's another really iconic. Good.
Yeah.
But let's say
Catwoman. I mean, the film, she's got a more of a sewed up suit, but it's still that same character, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's slightly. I mean, I think that when you look at the Tim Burton version, it's slightly. It's more of a dark and twisted take, but it's still fundamentally the same character. The good girl.
I mean, look at the Penguin.
Yeah.
As he's visually very different, and he's far more foul in it. But what he's doing, running for mayor, is literally from an episode of 66.
Yeah.
That is an episode. Yeah. They took it from it. So
yeah. And I do like that sort of, when you look back at Batman and Batman 89 and Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And at the time, people are like, it's dark and gritty. And you watch it now and you go, no, this is Campus Christmas.
Yeah.
But you know what? I still love it.
Yeah.
It's still amazing. And so let's say then, Jack Nicholson's Joker then.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're right. He's not really a far cry from the Cesar Romero Joker, as far as I'm concerned.
He's sort of midway, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's exactly where he falls in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of. I suppose if you really look at him as a scale, the 66 Cesar Romero is far more outlandish, not as gritty realistic, and then you get to sort of Heath Ledger where it is really gritty. It is like a scale. I don't really count the latest one because I don't really put him as I don't really know where he falls on. I can't ever, because he's not. The problem is with that, he's not charismatic.
No.
And that's the Joker is charismatic. That's why he's so enduring, because even though he does these things, you love him because that's why Harley Quinn loves him.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose we are Harley Quinn. Why would we love him? Why does everyone still love the Joker?
Yeah, and that's a really good point that he has. He has got a real charisma. Like he does command a room. He does do things.
He convinces her to love him.
Yeah.
In prison, in Arkham Asylum, which is mental in itself. But then you look at the new one, and I don't know how he did it, because he just looks like drugged out of his mind.
Yeah. I never, even from the moment with those first
it.
images, it was the fact it was like came through, and it, like, when you look back through the different iterations, and you go, or even up to like the Heath Ledger one, and it's a normal guy who wears makeup, and it's like a distraction. The whole pattern is like a distraction. You sort of accept that, but then to go to the next stage where he's literally got deranged, like tattooed on his forehead, and
that's just like
it's a bit too on the nose.
That's far too on the nose. That's just. I don't know how they got to that point, like in thinking like, this is exactly what he'd do. Like, having the character there and then being like, this seems like something he'd logically do. Like, nobody does that. Like,
no, but they were like, we want to make him edgy and new and modern. And I was just like no, because he looks like an early 2000s gangster rapper. He looks terrible.
It was
really
like
does.
Vanilla Ice. As the Joker. I don't, and then like the whole time it's like, well, that's what he looks like. Wait till we see him. Wait till we see how he acts. And then he just really. I thought it was just a shame because he's a good actor. Oscar winning actor. And
he was given crap material.
Yeah,
but that's the thing.
But then
when you look
even I don't know if he'd even given good material.
Like
he's
as that Joker.
Yeah,
like how could it have?
Yeah.
Like where would it have gone?
Well, if you take it to the next step, the things they're thinking about doing next. I mean, this shows how broken I think Warner Brothers are at the moment.
Yeah.
They're talking about doing an origin story that's going to be produced by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
And the most recent casting rumours, excuse me, rumour is Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Yeah, I've heard this.
First, maybe when he was Gladiator period, like early 2000s, But now he's a bit old, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got
he's probably a similar age to Batman.
Didn't that spiral out of somebody
this is
recommending
completely
Joaquin Phoenix for the role?
Someone
said that he'd be good. Yeah, it was someone.
I'm sure he's in talks.
Is it?
Yeah, apparently it sits in talks.
I mean, he's a good actor.
He is. Don't get me wrong.
I think he could do it, but
it's completely going to be completely separated from the DC.
Which, to be honest, I think can only be a good thing because if it does well, then I'd be happy if like connected universe. I don't think it's got like Marvel are doing it, but I just don't think you should tread that path because
No, do your own.
Yeah, and I mean even now, like I don't know how long Marvel can keep it up, to be honest, because.
Well, I think they know. They've sort of had this thing of like the Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet is there, but that's been their end game.
Yeah.
And beyond that, they're like, we can do whatever we want now. We
Yeah.
can just go off and do stuff.
The trouble is, I don't know if it's necessarily people's attention in it, but as much their way of doing it in the first place, make everything feel the same, is almost the thing that made it good is what's going to make it bad. Even, like every film feels the same. Like even the ones there's ones I've enjoyed. The last few I've enjoyed. But I've still been like, yeah, it was good, and I don't really care about watching it ever again. And
no,
just watching it to watch the next one. And,
it's like watching an episode in a TV show.
Yeah,
I agree with that, and I'm waiting for the big season finale with the Infinity
War
and Infinity Gauntlet. No, I agree with that. I mean, I saw Black Panther last night.
Yeah,
and
we went as well.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, visually, it was really competent, really well made. I think Ron Coogler's done a really, really good job. But again, like this morning, day after, I'm like, yeah, great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it felt
might watch it at something in the future, but I doubt
it'll feel a bit hollow, don't it?
Yeah.
And similar, and you just like
no takeaway, is there?
Yeah, I enjoyed this more than Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
See, I quite liked Thor Ragnarok, but again, I don't. I think it's just because it was funny.
Yeah.
It was a laugh, but then how long. I don't know if I'll watch it again.
Yeah. But this is why I think and I feel that like DC have tried to do something different.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm not a fan of like Zack Snyder, and I won't, hammer the guy because I think his visual styling is good. And he makes some really good visual choices. I think as an art director, as a cinematographer, I think the guy's top notch.
Yeah.
I just think when it comes to certain things, he's a bit like you said before. Like he rams up to 11, and you're just like, right, I'm 3/4 of an hour into this fight scene. Yeah. Even I'm bored now.
Yeah.
Like, let's wrap this up.
Yeah. I just thought Justice League was.
I don't blame him for Justice League though. I think that's a whole. That's a whole mess above and beyond.
Yeah. But then
there's going to be a documentary in like 5-10 years. Yeah. Like, what happened to Justice League? Because that's going to be a whole different.
Unlike National Geographic.
Yeah. But what happened to Superman's face? Basically, it's just.
Oh man, that was. Yeah, that was. It started.
When you watch it,
that first scene, it comes on. I went to see it.
What the hell was going on?
Yeah, well, I went to a midnight screening with Mike, and we were sat there, and Mike leans into me. He says, "I think my eyes are tired. That looked weird." And I'm like, "No. That's what it looks like."
And then you think like, why is this in it?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it was really, really bad. It wasn't even. It was like bad acting, bad writing. That phone clip felt like something from a student film. I was just like, but loads of it did. I don't know. I don't know.
All of it felt rushed.
Yeah.
The only way to describe it. That film felt rushed. But there are moments in that film where I go, oh, that's actually quite good.
Yeah, but it's not enough.
But it's not enough.
No,
it was constantly, it was constantly like, that would have been good.
Yeah,
that would have been good.
Yeah. Just several missed
Or
opportunities.
stuff where you're like, I can see what you're doing, what you're aiming for is right, but the deliverance of it.
Yeah.
Is just like the bit where they're all getting angry with Bruce Wayne for being a knobhead.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh damn it, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You're such an asshole. And it's like what he's saying wasn't even that bad. It's like, well,
it's
I know what you're doing. You've read this somewhere, or you've watched it on the cartoon where everyone's fallen out with Batman. Yeah. But you've just not done it right.
No.
It's just
to me when I watched it, the thing to compare it to me, it felt like a Transformers film.
Right.
Yeah.
In that sense, they went, well, they're really, really colourful.
Yeah.
And they look good. Yeah. And when they fight, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, what do we wrap that in? And that was it. Yeah. And then, so by the end of it, I was a bit like, as you said before, it felt hollow.
Yeah.
But there were still moments again where I was like, that was really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There were moments that were clearly Joss Whedon, there were moments that were clearly Zack Snyder. And there were, from both, there are moments I really liked.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a full Joss Whedon Justice League.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be signing a petition or joining any group, but I wouldn't say no to a Zack Snyder.
I think
cut.
both would be bad. After watching that, I was just there's no. I just don't. I don't know. It's just.
It all comes down to like, to pull it back to the Joker. It comes back to a certain thing though that I don't think people can tell concise stories anymore.
Yeah.
Like everything's got to be huge.
And and that's why this film. I mean, I don't really think we need a Joker origin.
No, God, no.
At all.
Talking. I mean, this was it. This was even talking the other week with Julian about this. The Killing Joke. The fact is, you can take that book in different levels or different ways. Like that story of his origin is being told from an untrustworthy narrator. So you know, it could be true.
Yeah.
Is it just that on that day, as you said, that's how he woke up that morning.
Yeah.
That's what's in his head. That's the origin he remembers that day.
Yeah.
But on another day, he was Jack Napier and he got shot in the face. You know, whilst robbing Axe's chemicals, and then there's another one, and all of those could be true.
Yeah.
It's all because he likes multiple choice.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what I like. But to have unless this is really good, like.
What are the chances that,
I
think it's good enough to excel past everything that we've seen before?
And it's not even that it's that if you put a reason on it, if you can empathise with him as to why he's become the Joker, is it as scary?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing.
No, not all. It's it takes away the mystery, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You don't see his face because it's painted or it's burnt or whatever. You don't see the guy's face. He's dehumanized straight away.
Yeah.
And then the way that he acts, because you can't pin him down from one day to the next, it's what is he? I think one of the scariest iterations of him was in the last Batman run, when it was the Pale Man and stuff like that, where it's maybe he was he's this elemental force of evil.
When it was hinted at that, when he was just in the background and stuff. I remember in the shop talking to you about it, and I was like,
mind's blown.
And you were like, it can't be true. That can't be true.
Yeah.
But you're just
you have
but
to
it could be.
That's it. You don't know, do you?
And
until once you nail down that this is it, it's like the midichlorians in Star Wars. It's everyone's going to be oh yeah, but it's just that now. Right now, he's anything he could, anything you can imagine he is, and that makes him terrifying because he could be your darkest fear. But once he's just a guy that did this, and then
it's like in that sort in Scott Snyder in Endgame, which is that sort of part of that run, and he takes down Jim Gordon, and I'm sure it's in that. It's either in that one or in Death of the Family. But there's a moment in there when Jim Gordon says something about smoking, and it's he's got my last pack of cigarettes. He says, I know you keep them under your bed, and you're just he's the fact that the Joker's been in your house and knows that is terrifying. But the thing I think is, like you say, people get, and I know it's great because we might get to see Darkseid on on the big screen. We're going to get to see Thanos. We're going to see these huge cosmic battles. That's awesome. Right. But with things when it's that level all the time, but you get battle weary.
Oh yeah, I think that's what it is.
This is, I mean, there's something to be said on why the only film that's done well for DC recently is Wonder Woman. Yeah, and it's just because it was set what?
Well, 100 years. Literally 100 years ago. Yeah.
So it's not involved in the other films. It's just one on its own, and then. All you do is you make these films where they're on their own, and then every now and again, if you really want, make a Justice League film.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to
pare it down.
Yeah, because even Marvel now, every film you see is a building block for that team film. Whereas when it started, it was just here they are, and now they're together, and that was exciting. And it's better like that. I don't know. You want a solo story. You don't read the comics hoping to read every comic going, do you?
Yeah.
No, that's
you read
it.
Batman because I want to read Batman.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, I think when I think about the Joker, and I think about the versions of Joker I like, it's when he is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because when you think of Nicholson's Joker, all he wanted to do was be a crime boss in that city, and then when that didn't work out, he's well, I'll just kill everyone then.
Yeah, and it was still
it was just that element of chaos.
Yeah,
and then like you say with the Heath Ledger version, it's that thing of chaos is chaos. And all of a sudden he comes across Batman, and he's now I've got someone to play with.
Yeah,
but he didn't care about doing these big things or anything. It was just about I'm going to bring in this
Yeah.
chaos. And that's why I think, I know Joker is slightly overdone maybe on the screen, but I would love to see like a small Joker story on the screen, and something similar to like Arkham Asylum or The Man Who Laughs or
I think
something small where it's like literally like Batman against Joker and he's being pushed to his limits like psychologically.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they're films, they're always going to be big. They won't use Joker unless it's big.
Yeah.
And I think this is why now it doesn't make sense to have all these universes as films. Make them as TV.
Yeah, I agree.
But then it's like your budget and stuff, and I'm not a big fan of like Arrow and Flash and whatever. So
it's always what you they
it
spend
is
hundreds
on
of millions
TV,
of dollars
but
into it here on screen. And that's the thing then. So the problem is, like I say, because these are the big hitters, you're always going to get them on the big screen,
and it has to be
big.
Be all end all story. It can't just be like,
which is a real shame. Because I think some of the best Joker stories in the comics are really small, really personal.
But it's not like okay. So one of my favourite Batman story is The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's essentially it's a serial killer that kills every holiday event.
Yeah.
And it's not like Gotham City's going to explode. It's not like hundreds and hundreds. Well, I mean, if it went on for ages, but it's just one person dies every holiday, and it's a murder mystery, and that's what it is. And it's got everyone in it, but it's Batman on a case. It's a case.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what was so good about Dredd.
Yeah.
It felt like just a day in his life.
Yeah.
At the end of it, and he's
weirdly,
like, see you tomorrow.
And weirdly, that's what I think. It didn't do great at the cinema and stuff. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
But I love that film for that reason. Like when the first Judge Dredd film failed on a whole number of reasons.
Yeah.
But it was like bringing down Mega City 1, and you're like, it's a massive story, fine. But then, like you say, because this was just a day in the life, and you're like, fuck, like this is just. He's like, he's like, back to work. Next case.
And that's what I think. That's what they're all. This is the end of the country. This is the end of the world. This is the end of the planet. This is the end of. And it's just like
there's no toning it down.
It has to be saving hundreds and hundreds of people, or it doesn't matter. And then when they don't save all the people, everyone moans.
Yeah. And that's what I think. Like I say, I'd love to see, these things pared down, that sort of thing. And I do want to see, I would love to see the Joker done as a horror character.
Yeah.
I mean, when you compare, like you said, you sort of like the faceless entity that could be anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't know his origin.
Yeah.
And when I think of like horror characters that are these icons.
Yeah.
There are ones that sort of are tied to their origin. They are defined by their origin.
Yeah.
So Freddy Krueger
Yeah.
is a child killer.
Yeah.
And that sort of defines what he becomes.
Yeah.
Michael Myers is a murdering force.
Yeah.
There is no origin story for him.
Yeah.
He's just fucked up.
Yeah.
But I don't need to know all that detail, which is why I never watch the Rob Zombie films. But you don't need to know that. It doesn't matter.
It's one of those things
just an entity that
you don't need to know it. You don't really want to know it.
No.
Yeah.
Because they're just that is what they are,
Yeah.
and you accept that, and it's not as interesting.
No.
Even so, even if it made it better, it doesn't matter because what they're doing now is
what's important.
There's nothing that someone's going to write to you that's more scary than the unknown.
Yeah.
Like we all fear the unknown. Just turning the lights off for some people is terrifying enough because it's like you don't know what's there. Your room's exactly the same as it was when the lights were on, but because you can't see it and you can't detect it, it's like suddenly there's fear there. And it's like that's the essence of it's like Jaws.
It's just a force you cannot
That's
control.
it. We didn't need an Attenborough documentary at the start of Jaws to tell you where the shark came from.
No,
that wouldn't have made it scary.
Watching 20-minute National Geographic about this reproduction cycle of sharks. Switch that up.
Just like that's a one way to kill Jaws. Just tell me exactly how it happens.
But again, it's like the fact is it's funny because the Joker's got no superpowers. He's not super strong. He's not super fast. He's not psychic or anything like that. He's just he's clearly got a level of intelligence. Like, he's really clever,
Yeah.
and he's got a level of insanity that is unparalleled. Really, like you said, you don't know what he's going to do.
It's not that he has extra power.
Yeah.
It's that he takes away your security.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny.
So it's if you imagine ever like I think this is the problem with superhero films. They're always saying hundreds of people. It always takes away the fact from imagine like if you've ever been mugged or just sort of even just like started on or anything in the street on your own, how that makes you feel for just a week, or just someone coming up to you being horrible to you, it really does upset you. You like people.
Well, Paul Dini wrote that.
How uncomfortable you are.
Yeah, Paul Dini wrote a book, and it was. I thought it was
he got mugged, didn't he?
He got
The
mugged.
Dark Knight, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
the Dark Knight.
yeah,
And that sort of had that sort of thing of the Joker and Batman as the demons on his shoulder.
Yeah.
One saying, well, look what happened to you. You're useless. That was, you're wuss. But then Batman's there going, like, stand up. You've got to keep going. That's
And I think you forget, don't you, like how horrible it would be when Ultron's on screen having a laugh, and you're just like, but it gets rid of the horror that Joker reminds you of in a good story.
Yeah,
and you're just like, if you survived the Joker. Would you really survive it?
No, and that's what I want to see. That's something I think that is really there's there are two Joker story elements that I think really encapsulate him as a horror character that I've always sort of like played with. Is the start of Death of the Family. So Scott Snyder's. It's the first issue of that, and it's the Joker turning up at the police station.
Yeah.
And you don't see the van turns up.
It's horrible.
And it's him trying to tell jokes to them as he's killing them.
Yeah.
And some of the jokes you're like, what's going on? But
And the lights
turn
off,
go.
don't you?
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there uncomfortably reading this comic book in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
It's
and
one of the most.
it
was one of the most uncomfortable reads ever. And I remember just reading it and thinking, like, this is awesome. Like, it was amazing writing, and the arts are fantastic. But like you said, there's an element of like, I don't know how I feel like broken by this. But then the other one is it was in Batman Beyond: The Return of the Joker.
Yes.
And they give the flashback. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but I tell you.
Yeah.
But the flashback when it talks about, is it Tim Drake? How he breaks him.
Oh, it just blew that
watching
that blew my mind.
It shows you how he breaks Tim Drake, and he starts laughing, and he's all got the kiddie Joker costume on.
Yeah.
And he's crying, and because Tim Drake kills the Joker.
Kills the Joker. Yeah, he shoots him with his own gun.
Yeah,
and it's
so like a good one. Just remember it. He's laughing, and it's like the fact he's done this to a kid.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't just killed him; he's broken him and made him like. He's like, well, Batman's got Robin. I want my own sidekick. I'm going to use yours. And it's that twisted logic that just thinks like that is horrific. I mean, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that is like I think that's. I guess because, like you're saying, with the origins of them all, like the old big super powered like superheroes needed a super villain to go with that, and so like their sort of mirror image of themselves is like another one that's hyped up and whatever. But like Batman's like he is like a detective, like he's doing small cases. He's on the streets doing that kind of thing, and so like the Joker's his equivalent of him, and like I guess that's how you end up with like someone that's like he is small scale essentially, like like the amount of times where he's just a guy, like he is just a normal guy that's just somehow so horrible. Like you end up with someone that's just like it could be anybody, but he's got the power to take down and to mess with. And to even just like take the time of somebody who fights aliens and who fights gods and extraordinary beings, like Batman has to deal with them, but then he also like the one villain that's just like perpetually coming back is just this guy from like down the road.
That's it. It's just some dude. It could be anybody. And that's what it could be anybody. And I think this is one of the things that that irks me when people talk about Batman a little bit, because I love Batman. I won't deny it. But that thing of like, Batman can beat anybody with the right amount of preparation. With prep time we can do anything. Like, it's all about the planning. And the thing I kept thinking is, because everyone talks about, Joker's just chaos. He just, I was like, no, he's not really. Like,
it's organised chaos.
He gives this. I think in fact, like I think Julian Darius mentioned it the other week. He was like, well, he gives this image of being
Yeah.
crazy. But how
Yeah.
insane is he really? Because
Yeah.
everything he does is
I think
like,
that's the thing.
minutely planned.
Yeah.
It's not insane. He isn't insane. He's psychopathic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that. Well, I mean, obviously, it is.
It's his very insanity.
Yeah.
It's a psychosis.
But
Like,
it's,
Yeah.
it's not insane as we
Yeah.
when you first think insane. It's not like
Yeah.
he's just
babbling mess.
yeah. He's absolutely together,
Yeah.
and he obviously plans it out because.
But I think like that whole thing. I don't think he ever plans to win.
no, you see, that's the thing. Is
It's all of it is just to push Batman and just to see. I wonder what happens if I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so what's going to do? And like if he won, he'd be.
Yeah.
I think he'd be chuffed about it.
Yeah.
But when he doesn't win, he's always a bit like, well, that's a laugh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It was
it's-
good fun. That
Yeah.
we'll do that again.
It's
He,
the,
he
it's
doesn't
the,
ever really lose though, does he? Do you know what I mean?
No.
Because he ends up in Arkham Asylum with like the rest of them, so he can plot some more for next
yeah,
time.
like all it takes.
Yeah,
You know,
he'll have a break.
if he's killed one person on
Yeah.
his way,
Hmm.
Batman's lost, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knows that.
Yeah.
And even if he hasn't, the fact that he's escaped and made it is like it's a game.
Yeah,
I think as well,
yeah.
it's the only like usually you've got your superhero. A lot of them are pretty, having a laugh,
Yeah.
witty comments every
Yeah.
5 seconds, and you're really serious villains. And then this is the absolute other way. Like Batman is not a laugh. It was
Yeah.
say
No.
the odd comment that's like, "Oh, that's quite funny," but
Yeah.
it probably wasn't meant that way.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. He's serious, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
The Joker is absolutely
Yeah.
not serious, and he loves that he's serious, and that's sort of part of the game,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Well, yeah, that's it. Is it the art? I always think that though. That, like,
it's
if he's
personal.
Yeah.
if because they always say like every character, like you said, has their opposite. Like,
Yeah.
Is that like that sliding door scenario?
Yeah.
They could be pushed.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the Killing Joke is given
Yeah.
the right scenario, you could be me.
Yeah.
And that's that's sort of like what he gets at is you could probably see them on a similar level of intelligence
Yeah.
and preparation time and planning. That if it all went to pot, Batman would be talking Dark Knight's metal. He would and does become the Joker.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like if the Joker really wanted to put, which they're doing with White Knight,
Yeah.
really wanted to put his intelligence and stuff to good
Yeah.
use, then
He could be the man of the people.
he could be the
like
man of the
is.
people. And he
Yeah.
could do that. He could do real good.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like Lex Luthor. Like Lex Luthor is that version of Superman. He's the true Ubermensch. If he put all of his intelligence and everything to good, like he could solve world
he's just
problems.
but
But he doesn't want to.
all he wants is money, power,
and to prove that he's better than Superman.
self-righteousness.
Yeah.
He's like
There's always that one element that stops it.
I suppose that's what makes sort of a good villain, isn't it? Like someone, it's not necessarily to do with opposites or anything, but just that they have that, like the fact that we can just describe what they're like because of that.
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose, everyone always says DC's villains are better, and there's not many Marvel villains that you can think of that aren't just like they hate that character.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of good ones, like Doctor Doom. He wants to
Red
take over.
Skull.
Yeah, like these people have got their own motives rather than just like they don't like Iron Man. Or
Yeah. And sometimes, like, there are comics I read from the Marvel side when you do think that, like, there are villains that you just think if they spent some time really polishing that villain up, like I say, like Doom, because Doom's I think probably one of the most nuanced villains in the Marvel universe.
I think he is probably the best Marvel.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Red Skull sort of like sways. I think when Ed Brubaker wrote him, he was really, really good. And then he goes the other way and becomes like an absolute caricature of himself. And you're a bit like,
but he is. I mean, he's a Nazi, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it's like he's a surviving Hitler.
Yeah, pretty much.
The villain. So you got like Magneto.
Yeah.
Magneto's another good one. Who's a really
and he's got his own agenda.
Yeah.
The problem I always find with this is another thing I suppose. Right, there are certain things that certain villains they become so popular they try and end up making them hit. Harley Quinn is a great example. Like she was good enough. Everyone loved her. She became a hero or an anti-hero at least.
Yeah.
They now want to do the same thing with Poison Ivy. I'm seeing this whole thing of they did it with
Harley
Clayface.
and Ivy.
And then but then in Marvel the same thing like Magneto.
Clayface,
I never got that.
I didn't get that.
But then like they did it with Magneto. Like Magneto switched, and I go, I sort of get it because it's for your people, but
it ruins.
It feels a little bit. Well, I always feel like I'm not like, I don't hold a grudge. I'm not ever that bothered.
Yeah.
But if I knew someone who'd done what they'd done,
yeah,
not sure I'd just let them onto my team straight away.
Yeah. And as well, it's sort of saying, well, it stops. The whole thing was sort of like the racism, sort of, or not just racism, like any bias and
discrimination.
Discrimination. That's what I'm looking for. Of them, and then it's got the ones that are trying to solve it by having a positive effect, like a positive image, trying to change the world that way. It's like the left and the right wing of mutants.
Yeah.
And it's like it was never really necessarily. Well, I suppose it was more. You felt like the X-Men were right, they were wrong, but it was still It's still
very.
There were times the reason you like Magneto is because it's like, well, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I get where you're coming from.
It's like, I mean,
it was always supposed to be. It was always supposed to be Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King, wasn't it? That was the two parallels.
Yeah.
So you do get that, like, what they're saying is valid, and you both got.
That's it. You can sympathise with both sides, and then you probably agree with one and don't. But like.
But that's it. So a good villain, in some cases, in many cases, a good villain is someone you can go, I sort of see what they're saying. I get. The way you're doing it is probably not great. But I get where you're coming from. But at no point have I ever gone. I get where the Joker's coming from. I completely understand. You're right. Joker fish is a good idea, and you should be given the copyright rules for that.
But it's like because it's like that. That's the sort of psychotic thing. Is the only reason he does anything is because he thinks it's funny.
It's just to entertain himself.
And who is he making laugh? Because if anything, he's not making anyone laugh. It's like the reverse. And that's what's so contradictory about himself, but that is so interesting as well. Because it's like he's making himself laugh.
It's all for himself. It's all to entertain himself, isn't it?
Yeah, but if someone, like the whole thing in Return of the Joker, with his way of beating him, spoilers again, was telling him he's not funny. It's like, not funny, not amused by it.
None of this is
really angry, doesn't he? He's like, not amused, mate. Try the other one.
But it goes back. That sort of goes back to that the Saw point. That Saw nerve from the Killing Joke is like, you're a failed comedian. At the end of the day, you're a failed comedian that is just taking out on society.
And it makes sense, but it almost when you see him before and you're like, it's like you were a bit of a wet lettuce before.
Well, that's what I sort of feel sometimes about when you give something an origin. You sort of like you take away its menace. I think, and you go. Oh,
I think the reason the Killing Joke is so popular it's not because of the origin.
No, it's the Joker. Story.
It's the end. The Batgirl, the Commissioner Gordon, and the fair and all that sort of stuff. That's what's like, whoa. I think otherwise, I don't really like the backstory. But then this again, you go back to like when sort of Scott Snyder redid it for Zero, and it still had the same with Red Hood and that. But then it was like the Red Hood was a criminal, and also it was like they thought he was someone, but he hadn't been in for ages.
They thought he was someone else, and then they found his body in a drum.
So he was already.
He
was already like that before he was the Joker.
And again,
then you're like, what?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's just another one of those multiple versions. Is well, in this version, and you don't. But that's the thing. You never know who he is. Like, he could have just been a bank manager. It's like today I've snapped. I'm going to become a gangster.
I mean, surely that's the only way they could sort of do a good film version of it. Is like if you're just constantly guessing the whole way through of who it is, and then at the end it's like no reveal.
But that's one of the great things about the Dark Knight is he says he has multiple stories for how he got the scars.
That's it. And
each and every one of them is a perfectly valid story. They're quite horrific, but each one you're like, that's a twisted origin.
But again, as well, even if they did just pick one of them, you don't need to see it.
No.
You don't. You like he tells it in
Yeah.
like the space of a minute.
Yeah, while
then
he's
you're
doing
like,
something else. Yeah.
Yeah, while he's doing something horrible, and you're
Yeah.
like, he's horrible.
Yeah.
You don't.
There's no need.
I mean, origins
No.
are generally, in general, are fairly boring.
Yeah.
Now we've
Yeah.
seen that many on screen.
Yeah.
It's like, how many times do you need to?
But it goes to show that I don't think that the Joker doesn't act in a typical supervillain manner. Like
No.
when you do look at the others, then like they all are defined by their origin to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know? Like if you look at the other big General Zod,
Yeah.
his origin is tied to Superman. He is.
Yeah,
He
and I
is,
suppose his origin is what is interesting as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not just.
he's looking for a new home, and he will take it
Yeah.
whatever it costs.
It's not just like he was a mild-mannered janitor, and
No,
that's the
exactly,
thing.
yeah.
Like, there's some sort of like there's all like it's complicated. He was a general, and then the world was going to explode. But he agreed with Superman's dad, and then he ended up doing something, and then like causing a coup. And then they chucked him into the Phantom Zone, and then there you go. You've got the Phantom Zone. All of a sudden, like, what's the Phantom Zone?
Yeah.
Like, well, the Phantom Zone is this prison, blah 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 blah. And then you've got all those stupid mirror things flying out. And it's like this is all of that is interesting.
Yeah,
like it's
but
all new.
It's almost like it's needed because it forms that character's sort of
But
like
it's-
motivation.
Yeah.
And that's the point, isn't it? It forms their motivation.
Yeah,
That when you look at those, when the characters have solid motivations,
yeah.
then they can buy into one.
And I think it says something. I mean, it says something about a character to have so little origin and be the most popular villain going.
Yeah.
But it's because he could be any and all versions. Like even from a cartoon point of view, he could be Mark Hamill, or he could be. There was the Batman. I don't know if you've said that. The sort of
Yeah.
Is that the one where he's like got the
straight jacket and the
on,
crazy
the
dreads and
and-
stuff? He was like a spring all over the place. I love that version of the Joker. I think it's amazing.
I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah,
I
it
always
was
wanted
cool,
the figure. Like I was like, oh, he looks slick.
And then they did the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and they went back to like the Jerry Robinson sort of like style Joker, and like all of that again like, seems valid. It's sort of like I don't. It's a bit like when Grant Morrison did his run, and he sort of like he took it that everything that happened to Batman was valid. Like, all of it happened because of this, and this. I feel the same could be done for the Joker. Like, you could do all of those iterations of the Joker. They're all valid and they all work, and they're all for this one guy.
Yeah.
And like you say, he's just gone through different phases.
I mean, why not? The whole thing is that.
In fact, I think
he's psychopathic. So it's just like you can take. It's like midichlorians. Psychopathic.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
psychopath.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think you just triggered it in my head. In Morrison's run on Batman, the Joker's in it. He starts with him almost killing the Joker and stuff, and when he's in, they do a book. It's like a prose book, isn't it? There's an issue that's like actual like text.
Full on.
And it's got the illustrations in it, but it's like it's crazy. And in that, I remember there's a whole thing, and they talk about the Joker being hollow. Like, there is no Joker. There is no personality. There is no thing. So basically, what happens is every time he gets put away, he'll come out in a different way because he's trying to fill that gap of like finding who he is. So he could be all those things. Like he could just come out and be like, this time I'm going to rob banks and I'm going to use oversized props. And then next time he's like, this time I'm going to come out and I'm going to skin babies and wear them as shoes. Well, all right.
We'll go with it. There's like there's a Justice League issue about him as well, isn't there, where they go inside his brain and is it? Well, it's something to do with Martian Manhunter, and it just constantly changes, and it's just like
it
does not ever stay the same. Because it's really hard for him to stay in there. I can't remember it very well.
I can imagine that being the case. Like the Joker's mind does not stop. Like he's just got ideas and sort of like that. Because I also remember sort of theory once that he has meta knowledge. Right. Like a bit like with Deadpool, he knows he's a comic book character, and that's what broke him. Like he started out as just a sort of a bank robbing prankster kind of thing, and then realizing he was just a comic book character broke him, and that's what's made him more and more violent and crazy. And I quite like that idea.
What is it? Superboy Prime sort of.
Well, isn't it?
And so there was like the 3 versions of him as well, like wasn't there? Like, isn't that in like the Snyder one as well?
Yeah, that's
like,
a new
that's
thing.
like
It's,
has that been explored?
That's Rebirth.
Oh yeah, that was Rebirth. Yeah,
because I know Batman sat in the new God's throne, didn't he?
Yeah.
He
There's
learnt
something
there were
about
three
it
of them.
in Metal, I think, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was. But yeah, they've not really. They have, but they haven't.
They
They've
sort
not
of like
really.
that,
yeah.
So
I'm hoping they sort of sweep under the carpet. I don't really like the idea. We'll see, but
could be good for a story, but
Yeah.
then you want them to afterwards be like, actually,
It's
slice
just-
we
one,
still
slice
don't
two.
know.
There's only
We
one.
still-
yeah, that's what you
Yeah.
want at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's just be like, I still don't know. Like
Yeah.
that's the end of it.
Yeah, there
Like,
could be three.
Yeah,
But it could be one.
Yeah.
Or
well, that's also like cool that like maybe it's not actually a person. You know, like maybe the Joker is like like an element, or like
passes from person
maybe
to
it is
person.
like a psychological disorder that like
Yeah.
like the psychosis is the Joker.
yeah.
And that goes from one person to another like
Yeah.
as the years
Because
go
I'd like
on,
to see, like you say, that someone who survived him, like with like some sort of form of like PTSD,
Yeah.
that ends up like mimicking him or
Yeah.
doing something. There's got to be some sort of like, I survived and
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
This was
it's sort of like that's how the Joker venom works, isn't it? To some degree,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you can pass it on to somebody else, and they become the worst version
Yeah.
of them. Like,
yeah,
so like maybe there is sort of like a I guess like a filtered, like a juiced form of it.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
is that does exist, which is kind of scary as well. That like you could become the Joker.
it
one
could
day.
infect
Like,
you. It could infect
yeah,
you.
that again adds some sort of like
Yeah.
realistic fear to it of like maybe it's a virus, like
Yeah.
maybe I could get it, like what if I turn
Yeah,
like
Well, I mean, that's what Endgame is
yeah
all about, isn't it? When you
trying to sort of take people to their
When
I guess
yeah.
they're like their
Yes.
base
Yeah,
level
yeah.
sort of thing.
yeah.
No, I like those ideas because in the current Moon Knight, Max Bemis is in. There's a character that called the Truth,
right
and he sort of like he exudes this energy that makes you see the truth.
yeah
And it can either be you are elated or you are, whatever it is
Yeah.
you are hiding from yourself.
right
Yeah.
You see the truth. So like you go through and it's sort of like it's that thing, like I say, that thing of like infecting people.
yeah
And it's really worrying when you watch this character. And
Yeah.
I hope it's one of those things. I hope they define him more. Because the idea of it is, like I said, like the Joker is like if it starts to infect you,
yeah
then you're like, I don't want you near me because
Yeah.
I'm clearly trying to hide something from myself. I don't
Yeah.
want, and I don't want you to
Yeah.
Yeah.
bring that
exactly.
out. Instead with the Joker, I am trying to repress
yeah
that desire that just says, nah,
Yeah.
fuck it, do what you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's it, let it loose.
because I guess that's like a major part of it is that like Batman's sort of mythos is like crime happened to him and he's gonna like take it back, like he gets in control, he's gonna stamp out crime on a nightly basis, like, and do everything he can to stop it.
Yeah.
But like Joker then takes that control away from him, that's the opposite,
Yeah.
is
I mean,
that like
that's
he undoes all of that in like what he is
Yeah,
by
yeah.
like literally just by being like, we don't know what's going to happen, like I've set these things up and like even I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Like suddenly his control is dissipated,
Yeah.
like, and it's just like there's no way of like him actually stopping that. Like you say, like he never really loses, does he? Like he can't.
Well,
he can't
and
lose.
it's that thing like he's so out, like when I remember being a kid being like, why don't you just beat him up?
Yeah.
And then you see it and he beats him up and he just laughs.
Yeah.
And you just
Just like-
I mean, imagine how you've just seen him kill a load of people.
Yeah.
You'd be fuming, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then you're
Smash
you're dead
him.
hard.
Yeah.
You're gonna lay into him, and he's just there laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be
Yeah.
infuriating, because then
Yeah.
there's nothing I can.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do
Yeah.
to make
This
him
guy's
stop doing it.
never going
He
to.
says that in The Dark Knight, doesn't he? When
Yeah.
he's interrogating him, it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing you can do with all your
Yeah.
power, like your
Yeah.
strength, like
Yeah.
is it's like
Beating me
there's
up
no way
doesn't
out.
have.
I think that is something about the Joker as well, that he is always socially relevant as well.
Yeah. Mm.
Like he's all like, and it's another level. Like there's not that many like Joker stories actually in the comics, and pretty much all of them you remember because they are at the time they're beyond what you think you'd normally read in a comic book.
Yeah, they push the boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
you can take him to that level, can't you? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like even like when he killed Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Like that's not the way he did it as well. Like when you read it now, it's not that you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be more
Horrific.
Brutal,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
But when you think about when it was and what comics were then, I mean, it's before
especially if you voted for it, you
Yeah.
must have felt well guilty. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
yeah.
because everyone thinks that like, it's like the the Dark Knight Returns was when it started getting dark, but that's for the time. That's
Oh, it's a dark. I mean,
crazy, isn't it? Like
the Joker in that story, in Death in the Family, is really dark. I mean, the Joker's like really quite like the story itself has got one of those. It's a ridiculous element, but because of what actually happens in it, you're a bit like, I'm not sure how to feel about this. Like, it's silly, and it's all.
It's like it's almost out of place, isn't it, in the story?
Well, it is because sort of like the story, sort of, I think, from
He's fighting terrorists, Shiite terrorists,
and then it's sort of it's all very sort of feels very early
and they're
to
looking
mid-80s.
they're looking for his
Jason Todd's parents.
Yeah.
In that, it's sort of it's a bit incongruous in the whole thing.
Yeah, and then there's some sort of court case, as I remember.
Well, it turns out some of it's all been set up with the Joker, and then he tracks him down, and he's kidnapped this woman, and it's all kinds of balls of thing. But the fact I like about it is, like, the Joker puts the bomb there, and he's like, it's going to blow up, that is. It's going to kill you both.
Like
but I'm not going to leave first. I'm going to literally beat you to death with this crowbar first. And that, like, the panels in that are really brutal.
Yeah.
And you are a bit that's come out of
the
nowhere.
thing is, Joe, like, if you go and look at the panels again, they're not, but you remember them a bit. Like, because I was like, I remember him, like, lifting it up, and there's, like, but it really isn't, like, it's just him, like, with his arm in the air, and then it's not.
It's
not
almost like
even
the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like the thing when you go, everyone gets cut up, and you watch and you go, they don't actually. It's
it's
all
all
good.
But I suppose that's good.
I look at his escape plan is amazing. Like, his escape for it is he becomes an ambassador for Iran. Yeah. So he gets diplomatic immunity. So they can't arrest him.
Diplomatic immunity.
It's lethal weapon. Lethal weapon 2.
Lethal weapon that took a Batman.
It's just been revoked.
That's what I'd love to see. That Batman given one-liners. But that's the out. So you go up from this, like, this literally him beating a child to death. And then blowing him up. To him then going like, diplomatic immunity. And you're just like, that's really silly. Like, there's a picture of him, like, there's a thing, and he's got like the Arab headdress and stuff on. And you're just like, this is ridiculous.
It does sort of feel like they just didn't expect to actually kill him.
No, I think people were. They were expecting. I would love to have been in the office.
I think it was close, wasn't it? Apparently.
I think
I'm sure it was like 51.
Really?
It's like a Brexit vote.
But there's also a big thing about whether it was rigged or not. I remember.
Yeah, because apparently it wasn't liked in the office. Like, the character, like, they didn't like him in writing him and stuff. So it was clearly like a way to get rid of
But it does feel like when you read it, they didn't expect to actually do it.
No, they didn't play it out.
Like, whoa, because it doesn't. I don't really like the story. It's not very good.
No, it's not.
It's a tough read, and it's like it's silly. Yeah. But that bit, is why it is remembered.
Yeah. It's funny because it's a bit like in Doctor Who, and they talk about timey-wimey spaces, all that kind of stuff. But there's fixed points. There's certain things that will always happen. Like, you can't change those fixed points. And I think that's the same with Batman. Like, if you were to do, this is the story of Batman from like year one through to Dark Knight Returns, right? That's your Batman, and then fill it in.
Yeah.
The death of Jason Todd is a fixed point. Like, you can't not have that in there. Like, there are other things you can just take away. And
it was groundbreaking, I think.
It was, but it's affected so much.
Yeah.
Like, throughout most of the early 90s, and even up to, like, with the return under the hood, like, return of Jason Todd. Yeah. It's affected so many things. Yeah.
And even that, I mean, that was ages afterwards, wasn't it? That's the thing.
Return of the under the hood. Under the hood. Yeah, it was like early. It was mid like 2005, 2006, right?
Yeah, and it was in was it the 70s when he died?
80s.
Early 80s.
Yeah, Jason Todd died in the 80s. Yeah.
So that's quite a.
So it's quite. It was gone for a while. Yeah. But like I said, that's another story. Like, the Joker is so intrinsically linked to the Batman. I mean, could he work with any of the? He is Batman's villain.
Yeah, I mean, you see it. He's in the occasional other story, but it doesn't. That's the thing. It's because Batman can beat anyone. Given the prep time. Yeah. But then the Joker is the sort of. It's that thing where you can't win. You just have to minimise the damage. That's all he can do. and it is his villain.
Yeah.
Like it's.
But let's take him then.
It's
Let's ask
more
the question.
interesting,
If right, let's keep him in DC for now. But if you took the Joker and you were going to put him into any other character's book as a villain, just for maybe one story out, like you can do one story out with the Joker as a villain, and it can't be Batman.
Yeah.
Who do you put him against?
I don't know. I mean, who realistically could it be as interesting with?
Well, there's others because
I've read him in a few. I'm sure
Yeah.
I've read him in a Superman,
yeah.
and that's. To be fair, have you read Batman Superman? The Jeff Loeb run.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's all. That's the Joker, isn't it? in
Yeah, there's a load of Joker stuff in that as well. Yeah.
And that's really good. But
Yeah.
I mean, Batman's still in it.
Yeah.
And he's not really. Joker's not really in it. He's just behind it.
No, yeah, that's true.
Sort of thing.
But who would you put him against? If you kind of.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
It's too unfortunate. Before
Prep time for this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw that because
Yeah.
you know what? Let's take him out of the DC universe. But if you were to put him in the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
who would you put him against? Because
Um,
you know what? If you put him in the Marvel universe, he'd probably kill everybody.
Yeah.
yeah, I can't. Well, I mean, who are your heavy hitters? You got like Spider-Man, but I mean, he's just like Green Goblin, but better. So
I feel like an easy answer is Punisher, but
just
mainly
to be
because
fair,
of like
it's like you
realism.
could try and kill him. wouldn't
Yeah.
That'd
And
be a
then-
really interesting story.
Yeah.
Like, the enemy would be like, bang.
Yeah.
it? Punisher's sort of the less complained about Batman in
Yeah.
that I don't think he's ever lost.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, like if he comes up against someone, he always wins.
Yeah.
And he is like Batman, like he will beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he just will
Yeah.
like not do anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Punisher's an interesting one where I think Batman sort of like is sometimes
Yeah.
I feel doesn't do this because they try and sort of lighten him up a bit. Is that if you've ever read the Punisher Max series by Garth Ennis?
Yeah.
I like the fact that as you go through that, the Punisher pretty much wins and does other things, but it takes a toll on him.
Yeah.
Like as you go through that book, you're like, this guy's getting darker and deeper and more broken. Like this book's taking its toll on him.
Yeah.
And I never feel like that with Batman against all the
then I
horrific
suppose
things he's seen. Like,
The difference is where Batman has a family. As much as it's not his family, he has a family of people that usually push him back on the right track, or like. Whereas Punisher, he is always on his own.
Yeah, he is the ultimate loner, isn't he?
Yeah. He's like what Batman would be if Batman didn't have Alfred.
Well, Well, I always think
It's like,
But I always think about this as well. Like, if you were to take characters based on revenge, which is the
look
loss of someone, you've got the Punisher at the extreme.
But what
on one
about
end, Spider-Man at the other, and Batman sort of like in the middle.
But then look at Thomas Wayne Batman.
He's
the Punisher, isn't he?
Yeah.
But with more stuff.
Yeah.
So
that was a great version.
I
love that story where Thomas becomes Batman and Martha becomes the Joker.
Because it's like it's one thing. It's like losing your parents makes yourself always have to prove yourself to them.
Yeah.
Losing your child is unbearable.
Just fury.
Yeah. That's sort of the story, isn't it? And and you can completely be like, and it's clever, and it's that whole thing about. The good thing about Batman's origin is it's about 10 minutes long most in any film.
Yeah.
And you can just be like, oh, son.
Yeah.
And you can just refer to it because you can all imagine how horrible it would be. Some people are unfortunate to, actually have it happened.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it is, everyone can put themselves in his shoes and then, to flip it with his dad, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, to lose a child. Like
I haven't even got a child, and I know that would be harrowing beyond.
Surrender.
Yeah, and that's it. So the Punisher, like you say, is it's I know we're going off on all kinds of tangents, but when you read like Punisher Born, about him in Vietnam, you realise that it's almost like he was already broken, and this just gave him an excuse. It was almost like they released the tether to be like. Yeah, forget your family. They're gone now. You go, channel your psychosis into whatever the hell you want.
But I think Joker v Punisher would be
I'd be interested in the story. So I want to see him against someone lighter.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to see
Tick.
the Joker. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Just the confusion on the Joker's face. We're like, I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
This is weird. But like I say, I think the Joker versus someone like Spider-Man or.
Well, I do think. I mean,
I'd like to see him against the Flash in the DC universe. Like Joker taking on the Flash.
Yeah.
I know you've got the prankster and stuff, but like the
It's
Joker
not the
being,
same, is it?
but Joker being on full. You know, if you were to take like the Snyder Joker, the Scott Snyder Joker, and put him against the Flash, I'd really like to see that because that's when he'd be like, "Oh, I'm coming for all you. You think you're fast? You know, well, let's see what I can do with that." I think that could be really twisted.
Yeah. I think like it would be a similar sort of, you know, the Daredevil story with Mysterio, where he just like ruins his life basically.
Yeah.
Like gives flipping. Got Karen Page gives her cancer and all sorts of horrible things. It would be sort of like if you wanted to ruin that character forever. Yeah. Like if you were like Green Arrow, we need to ruin him now. Like we need to really, like we want an end story that's just horrible. Yeah. Put him against the Joker.
Yeah.
Ruin his life and
whatever happened to the fastest man alive.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, and he'd just like make them kill themselves.
See, that's the thing. Really, you know, because all these heroes go through a rebirth kind of thing. Like, you know, you get like Daredevil got literally got reborn, and they did the Flash, didn't they, with like rebirth and stuff. Yeah. But I've never seen, and like in Daredevil gets it a lot. I mean, the guy just no one wants to be Matt Murdock.
It's like he is the ultimate punch bag for like storylines, isn't he?
But I think like, you know, I'd love to see that, like a bit like Nightfall. You know, with Batman, you had Bane like literally like break Batman down and physically break him down, and then the rest goes with it. I know the Flash is supposed to be a lighter character. You couldn't do it with Green Lantern. You can't do it with Cyborg. You couldn't really do it with Superman.
No.
I would like to see
the Flash is the closest thing to a Marvel hero in the DC
and I'd
universe.
love to see him go through a Daredevil level breakdown where someone starts fucking with him to the extent of like it all like a you know get you got Brian Michael Bendis there now. Let him do it. We'll get you know get Alex Maleev in and do like a really
but I mean that's
dark Flash story.
Like, that is Injustice. The game and comic book. It was Joker decided I'm gonna ruin Superman's life. And he kills Lois Lane, doesn't he? And then it just completely ruins
everyone's life.
And he becomes the biggest villain. And it like.
So that's the sort of thing I'd love to see. Like that.
What a legacy!
I haven't read all of.
Like,
I haven't read all of Injustice. I only read the first.
I've not read any of it. I've played the games. I've not.
But I do, and I like that idea. Like, you know,
maybe that's Batman's endgame then. Like he can't win against the Joker technically, but he contains him. Like he contains him, keeps him content with getting back at him, and therefore like leaves everybody else out of it. So like maybe he is like doing everyone a service in the long run. And the fact that like as long as he's obsessed with Batman and like wasting his time and like ruining his life,
there was a story there where
else.
There was a story there where the Joker thought he'd killed Batman. I think Batman goes away from it, and the Joker like regains his sanity, has plastic surgery, and goes back to school, like goes to be educated. So you almost like, and like I say with the Dark Knight Returns, when Batman goes, he literally willingly goes into an institution to be sort of like almost, you know, catatonic. So it's sort of thing of like, you know, there's always that question of like, without Batman, is the Joker actually, does he do anything? I always sort of feel that it's almost like a cop out. Like if you took away Batman, the Joker would just go away. I'm always like, no, he would pick someone else.
Well, I mean, that comes out like when he started, it wasn't like I'm gonna annoy Batman. He was just killing people. He was just causing that sort of like chaos and that was what he did. And then Batman came along, and that's just something they've added years and years later that he decided I'm only just gonna torture Batman now. Like I mean, you look at anything from like sort of before the like when Jason Todd died. It's always like there's times he wants to kill Batman. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll kill you, Batman, and every episode of 1966
Yeah.
It's Batman.
Next time.
He's like he's genuinely annoyed that Batman's ruining his plans. But now that's something that's sort of spawned through sort of the psychology over the years, which is the evolution of the character, which obviously, when they're all 75 odd years old.
Yeah, you sort of grow. But that's why, because they've been around for so long, I'd love to see him unleashed. I'd love to see like a really good writer unleash him on somebody else. Let's say someone like the Flash. I mean, that's maybe too high level. I mean, even like a lower level one.
Yeah.
Like someone a bit lower is a bit like, do you know what?
I just want to ruin him.
I'm just in a pissy mood and I'm picking on someone. I'm gonna fuck them up.
Yeah.
Just sort of, like wake up one morning just thinking.
But the trouble is with stories like that is unless it demeans him as a villain to be beaten by anyone but say Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Well, you say that, but it depends on how it's written. I mean, this is again
that's
where you
true.
sort of like,
I mean,
the ending doesn't have to be he literally gets beaten up or something. It could be written to be, depends who's writing. A good writer would give you a good ending. That, like I said, it's what we always said. Like, whenever you watch wrestling and stuff, like you say, The Rock can't really go against so because that knows his job, and if he goes over, if that person goes over on him, then
it's the way in which they beat them.
But it's the way they go over it, and they do something. There'll always be something that'll trip them up.
Yeah.
Why not? Here's one: put them against another villain.
Yeah,
that might be interesting.
Yeah,
because then all of a sudden, you've got like what at the moment. I don't know if he still is Lex Superman.
I think he's given up recently.
Yeah, but
that would
like
be
that. Yeah, or like put him against someone completely. Like Black Adam or Black Manta, like something weird, like you just wouldn't.
Like the
Aquaman.
variables.
What about Aquaman?
Yeah.
Aquaman,
really
that's an interesting.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way that a good writer could do that.
Yeah,
because they've had it where at the moment, like you say, we've had some excellent Batman stories, Joker stories, and then we've had some dross. Where like you can tell they're not really sure what to do with them. There was a whole thing where they had Batman and the Joker sort of tied together through some disease or infection.
and they had to travel. Europa.
Yeah,
I hated that.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, it was just a shame because it's like it was a good team. It was different artists.
The art in it was amazing,
and it was what's his name? It's a really good writer.
I can't remember. It's that I can't remember anything about it. I remember the art. I remember
Brian Azzarello.
That's it. Brian Azzarello. Yeah. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, "Oh, the art on this is amazing."
Yeah.
And a couple of issues, but then I remember reading the first issue and thinking, "This is not going to go well."
And I think as well, it was, Arkham Asylum, where it's got that sort of really weird art, like where it's like you can't remember.
David McKean.
They tried, the more ill he got, the more.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really. You didn't have any intermission where you saw, like, Amadeus talking and it was normal or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I remember the last issue was just like, I can't.
Bill Sienkiewicz just sort of like
what's going on?
Scratching all over the place.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't
illegible.
Really,
yeah. And that's the thing with the Joker. Like, sometimes I think you use him sparingly and you bring him out for some really good stories, but he can also be like, he can be in the shadows, like he can be that almost like the Pinhead character, like because he is so well prepared.
Yeah,
you could be in the background just sort of like pulling the strings and doing stuff because you think it'd be hilarious. That these are the people are doing this for me, and at the end of it, it's revealed it's the Joker, and maybe the last couple of issues or something. But yeah, I just think I'd like to see him directed at someone else. Yeah, just.
Aquaman, that's
Aquaman would be quite interesting.
Just because I can't, it's just something where you just can't even imagine it.
Yeah.
I don't like.
I can just see it in a bubble helmet, sort of like walking after him. But there are ways of doing it. I think the Flash. I'm going to stick with the Flash. I want to see him literally just trip him up. Yeah. Start from that.
But I think there's so many ways round it. When you got super speed. But then that's the interesting bit of the story,
and that's where you get a good writer. Because the thing again, like with the Flash, when you look at all the villains, like if you say you've got super speed and you can vibrate through walls, and you can think as fast as they now make out, you can climb. How does anybody ever commit any crime in that city?
That's it.
Well, it's like you've got the rogues, Captain Cold. As soon as he freezes him, he slows down.
Yeah.
So that's how they do every story there.
Yeah.
Grodd has like telekinetic powers. And sometimes super speed because he's got like Speed Force thingy. Reverse
super
Flash
speed,
is
super speed gorilla.
only sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know if that was just one story but he has got telekinetic powers.
That puts me off. The one thing that always puts me off the Flash is whenever I look at the books and they're like, now there's 14 people that can run really fast.
But I
I'm
think
like,
that's
bored of that.
that's what they do now, and I used to really love it, and that was the New 52 stuff was all like
70 speed.
loads of speed. I was just
Yeah.
like, I just no.
Well, it's the same with Batman in a way, isn't it? It's like we've got a new one.
Yeah.
But I think with him, it's like it's a new criminal, and it's like because it's a new psychopath, and then you can have anyone, can't you?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a new speedster, it's
Well,
like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what it's because it's different.
Yeah.
It'd be so different.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you were to take if he was going to be doing the things he did in Death of the Family or Endgame, when he was, if he took the time to figure out that you are Barry Allen or Wally West or whoever
that's
it is,
Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
That's what's Reverse Flash is not interesting because he's got super speed.
Yeah.
And the only reason he's got that is so that it puts him on a level playing field. He's actually just horrible.
Yeah.
And he's like, because he's like Barry has killed him. Like he'd snapped his neck because he just knew he wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
So he just twists his neck because he's going to kill
The
his
Man
family.
of Steel effect.
Yeah, that's what they got it off.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. And
Yeah.
I sort of always accepted that. And that's
and
the thing.
that's really like when it was in the book, especially that was really good. And that's so he has dealt with that sort of cycle. That's why he's a good villain, but he's not as memorable. Is because the Joker's there.
Yeah.
And he looks better.
So everybody's always in his shadow, really.
Yeah.
Because DC has got some cracking villains.
Yeah. Well, I think because they all have. It just feels like there's more work put into a lot of them, and that's why like a lot of Marvel ones. You don't. I don't know. I mean, probably you just don't see them enough, but it's always like Doctor Doom. You know what like the ones we've said. You know what they do. And that's why like a lot of their good villains, a lot of the ones you remember from Marvel are from X-Men. Yeah. Because all of them have an agenda to do with discrimination and it's interesting and you understand them.
Or they're trying to do something. Like you say, Doctor Doom is he is a megalomaniacal ruler. Yeah. It's like Kingpin as well. I love Kingpin as an idea.
And as well in the films, I think he's the best. Yeah. The best villain going. Yeah, like Vincent D'Onofrio's version of Kingpin in The Simpsons was really good. Yeah, and I do think he's a great. Yeah. He's a great villain. Yeah. And then it's like, well, I mean, Loki. There's sort of all sorts of history that you can pull on if you want to, and that's why it's memorable. But other than those, I don't know really who else in. There are good. I mean, Spider-Man has a lot of. Yeah. Spider-Man's probably got the best Marvel. But I don't know if it's just because they look good. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because we've got. I think Venom is like not actually interesting. But he looks interesting. As a kid. Well, I think what's going on here? This guy's massive. But it's one of those things again with Marvel. Oh, maybe it's just comic writers. Maybe I give them too much credit. Yeah. But they start with the Green Goblin. You go, Green Goblin's a good idea. Oh, he's tied into sort of like Peter Parker's sort of history and other stuff. What's next? Oh, you got the Hobgoblin. All right, what you got now? Well, I've got this other goblin. All right, you've got 4 goblins. All right, well, I'll leave that alone. Who's this? This is Venom. All right, Venom's cool. What does he do? Well, he's a baddie sort of version of Spawn. Who's that? That's Carnage. Right. Are we just doing that now? Yeah. We make a good villain and then we copy them. We've got like Anti-Venom and Rhino. Toxic. And you're like, Jesus Christ. So you've got like Rhino, Scorpion, Vulture. Yeah. These are all just different
animals. Because he's a Spider-Man.
Yeah. But even that, because why did Rhino go squashed? Yeah, that's it. But even I like the fact that I do accept that like, at least Marvel will take the mick out of their. Yeah. Because they've got Rhino, but then there's also the guy called Grizzly, who's literally a guy trapped inside a bear costume. He's just like, and you're just like, it's funny. I think it's when they do that, it's funny, but it almost belittles what they do. And like when you look at the recent Batman run with Tom King, when they did Kite Man, and you know he's a crap character, Kite Man, like you just laugh at him, and they could have easily been like Kite Man. Yeah. But they did a really serious story about Kite Man. That was amazing. And you were like, you really felt for Kite Man. That was the best. That whole thing, the Kite Man interlude issues were the best thing in that.
Yeah,
The
that
War of
Joker
Joker
storyline.
the War of
like
Joker,
Riddler.
because that was the worst. That was another one of those. And I quite liked Tom King,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I felt that was the worst
It felt like something he was.
arc that he'd done.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of like they'd say you have to do a Joker one. That's what
Well,
it
it just
felt.
felt.
Like
It felt. Yeah, no, I agree. It was like,
Yeah.
but the
I
idea
did
that
like-
the
I
Joker,
liked-
the idea that the Joker loses his sense of humour, or loses his bit, just
Yeah.
felt like a bit like
it was.
oh.
It was something that didn't feel like it needed to be. It was like built like the last episode, the last sort of the ending of it was good when he actually finally laughs, but it was way too long.
It did.
It
Actually,
was like a really long arc, wasn't
yeah.
it?
Well,
But-
the fact like the whole it felt to me like there were like two big elements that like it's like Tom King's gone. I really want to do a small character and give him like a really heartfelt
Yeah.
background. So when he did the Kite
Yeah.
Man stuff, I was like, this is really well thought
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I'm really
That's what he does
enjoying
best,
it.
though, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
It felt like this. That was the quality of reading
Yeah.
the vision. It was
Yeah.
like this is really well thought out. It's got heart,
Yeah.
and I'm really loving it. And
Yeah.
I would go back and read those issues.
Yeah.
But then the whole thing with the Joker, like if Scott Snyder had written that War of Jokes and Riddles,
yeah.
it would have been balls to the walls, Michael Bay
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
action. I mean, there's an issue where they talk about Deadshot and Slade Wilson going at it for 5 days, and it's just 2 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, they were at it for 5 days, and I'm
And
like,
as well, do you know
well,
what?
yeah, but
It's one of those things.
when
where
did they
what,
stop
like,
to go for a week?
I feel like if he wasn't in Suicide Squad,
Yeah,
then that would have been a game over really quickly. Seeing as Deathstroke is superhuman,
Yeah.
yeah,
like reflexes, everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
But somehow,
yeah.
what's Deadshot? Is
Yeah,
a dead shot?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's literally all he does.
Well, he's a bit like Hawkeye, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, like no one ever believes.
He's
that
like
he's
evil.
actually,
It's like if
Yeah.
Hawkeye had stayed a villain and didn't
Yeah.
have and had guns instead of a bow.
Yeah. Yeah, again, there were things that, so I have to admit, the baddies in that always felt a little bit put to the side. Like,
It felt-
and I also, I hated his version of the Riddler. I don't like the Riddler being this, all of a sudden, being sort of almost like a tough Irishman.
Yeah.
I was
yeah,
like,
he
oh,
did
I don't
look-
like that. I like the Weasley Joker,
Yeah.
no, the Weasley Riddler,
Yeah.
where he's almost like,
He's just
it's his
Basically, it's
intellect.
pure
and his-
arrogance, and that's what I like. Like because the thing is about the Riddler, everyone, you think you like him
Yeah.
because you remember him,
Hmm.
but then when you read him, you're like, oh, he's such a knobhead. He's
got
basically
to
like
be a
he's like the
douche.
Joker you don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you just.
But the thing that I've always liked about the Riddler is, yes, he is super intelligent and he does
Yeah.
all the riddles and that sort of thing. So he is a strategist. So
Yeah,
I quite
yeah.
like that idea. But I like the fact that he should be physically weak
Yeah.
and actually
Yeah.
like unsure of himself.
Yeah.
Like it should be the fact that like all this intelligence, he should be a super nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like he's a nerd. Like he is really, really intelligent, but
He's
no one
like
ever takes him
yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And he's always a bit like unsure of himself, and that's his
And-
insecurity's always there.
Yeah, it's the fact that he thinks he's smarter than everyone anywhere.
But
And
no one
that's,
seems to
and
care.
that's why he
Yeah.
plays these stupid games with Batman.
Yeah, to prove
Because
himself.
he needs to prove that he's smarter, and it never really
Yeah,
works out.
like he's always that little bit less.
Yeah.
And I think so
And
when he
it's
was when he was actually going like toe to toe and like in physical fights, I was
Yeah.
a bit like,
I know, yeah, it was
Ugh,
just like no.
I don't like
yeah.
this. And he carved a spoilers if anyone's
yeah.
read it, but like he carved a question mark into his chest
Yeah.
and stuff. And I'm like,
It
oh,
was-
this
yeah.
doesn't feel
Yeah.
good.
No.
Like, a villain needs to be sort of like consistent in
Mm.
many ways. But
Well, I mean, Riddler's one of them characters that he'll always be one of the most famous ones. Literally, I think because of the '60s.
yeah,
you-
Frank, the
you
Gaussian
rarely-
Riddler
yeah.
is
Yeah.
amazing.
But you rarely read. There's rarely any stories.
Mm.
There's like 0 Year, that one, and then before that, I don't even know.
I couldn't
when
name a Riddler story.
No, there's not.
No.
There's hardly.
I would like to
there's a
see
few
one.
old
I'd
ones,
love to
but-
see a
Yeah.
good one.
But I mean,
done,
how-
where he isn't.
It's like, how hard would it be to do one? Like,
Yeah.
you've got to come up with all these riddles, and
Yeah, I think that's
make
why
people
people
take
avoid
it
it.
seriously now as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's different, isn't it? And
But I think that's
reckon
why
it'd be
people
good
avoid
if
them.
it'd be
It would be
amazing if it
amazing,
was
yeah,
done,
that's the
thing.
done
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
But
again, he could be done to be really
Yeah.
scary.
But I mean, I
in
suppose-
this technological world, like he could
yeah.
be really.
Oh yeah.
No,
But
but
that's what
that's
0 Year though is.
Yeah.
Though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, he
yes.
completely takes over,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he owns Gotham for
Which
like
one
a
was
year.
it in? I think again it's in the Snyder one. There's
Yeah.
a bit in that where it's in Death of the Family. The Joker's pumping poison into the Riddler's cell, He's like, "You got 30 seconds. You know, are you going to join me or not?" And he's like, "Joker, I can get out of here anytime I want.
Yeah.
Like this poison, fine." And he gives it and like gets out, and you're like, the fact
it's
that
the
he can,
death of the family.
yeah. So the fact you he is that intelligent, it is that thing like he can just do things if he wanted to, like, and I almost want to see that, like, because it's always directed at Batman in many cases. I almost want to see it directed at somebody else, and Batman has to intercede. You know, that would be interesting. Like, okay, I'm not going to take down the city. I'm just going to take down like this person, or like, you know, these people, or this family, or this organisation, or this something, and then Batman has to intercede because it's having an effect on something else. Because there seems to be a need for villains to be upped of late. In DC, they try, you know, they have to keep building on things.
Yeah, those. I do miss those small time stories because, like, even if just one person dies, that's like the fact that you should see that as that's bad. Like one person dying. If someone if you know someone and they're a murderer, like all of a sudden you find out they're a murderer, and it's like you won't be like, oh, you only killed one person. Yeah, it's only one person. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. It would be like flipping out. He killed someone.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, he killed someone. Yeah. So it takes away that importance.
And I think that's the thing with comics, they all have to be so bombastic.
Yeah.
And big.
I think it's because of the films. It's like
it is.
Films,
oh yeah.
Because if there's a film, it has to be big enough to be a film.
Yeah.
When really, like, the films would actually do better if they did stories that were smaller because they're not long enough to hold.
Yeah. I think if you were to do a Batman story, a Batman film on par with Dredd, if Dredd had been Batman, right? It was basically Arkham Asylum.
You do Long Halloween.
But if you had Batman, like if you've seen The Raid, right, and Dredd, if you actually did that with Batman is trapped in a building, and he's got to get out past all these villains, those other things.
Yeah. Did you read the Arkham one recently?
That would be badass.
Arkham Manor.
I read the first couple of issues.
That is what that was. Yeah. So he's in. It's when
I think it was one of those things I wanted to go back and read. I've never got.
Yeah, and it's basically there's a murderer in there, and he has to find him, and he's killing inmates, basically, and that was what it was all about. It was actually really good.
Yeah. See, it's a bit like what I would love to see that. In fact, now I've said it, I want to see that. Yeah. Like Batman's trapped on the third floor. He's got to save some people on the 10th floor, and then he's got to get out. Yeah. And he's got all these things in between. Yeah. I think it would just be awesome.
I suppose that's what Arkham Asylum is, isn't it? Like it's all in one building. Yeah. It's just on an extreme scale.
You know, take out.
I mean, the actual book isn't that extreme, isn't it? Like the actual book is.
It's a psychological book, though. Yeah. It's all about him admitting how twisted he is.
Obviously, the game is massive because it's a game.
Yeah.
But. It's all the fact that that's what's so interesting is that it's all trapped in the one building with all of his villains. But then if you did it as a film, it just feels like you're throwing in all the villains.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be all of them. You could have it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the Joker. Like you could have one. I tell you, it would be really good if you. I tell you, it would be really good actually. It'd be Black Mask. Yeah. Black Mask runs a building. Yeah, the Batman before Dredd. If they hadn't done Dredd and Raid,
what's that one about?
He goes in and he's got to go and save these family of people.
Year one is he's stuck in that. It's the police, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's stuck in that building because who is he fighting in year one?
It's the
it's a similar thing, isn't it? Like is it the crime boss? What's his name?
Falcone.
Yeah, Falcone. Isn't it? So and he's in there and he's like taking them down, and then the police come in because they're on his page.
Yeah, because they sort of use something similar in Batman Begins, don't they? Where he uses the thing to call in the bats, and then he uses that scape.
But that was awesome, like in the book, and he's just stuck in there, and it's like, how's he going to get out? Yeah. And all of a sudden...
But it's the same again, like, you know, they use... A lot of the villains you have in superhero movies now have got to be kick-ass. You know, they've got to be like... You know, so Batman's never been a detective in... Yeah.
And the trouble is, we're at a point of like constant reboots. I feel like we're just going to see a series of Joker films as well, which is going to overdo it. Yeah, like we just see the Joker film, Suicide Squad, Batman's going to have the Joker in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like
Do you know what, so someone's like all these things exist in, like, I know the DC has got the 52 or possibly more now multiverse, right? So universes. And even with like the with Marvel, they've always admitted that there's been the Ultimate Universe, and there's always there's other universes, dimensions, whatever. So I was listening to a podcast today, and they were suggesting, wouldn't it be cool if there was a glimpse of sort of like the alternatives, like Tom Holland, in Infinity War or something. There was a flash, and all of a sudden he saw like there were other Spider-Men in other universes. So he saw like the Andrew Garfield version of himself. He saw the Tobey Maguire version of himself. It was all connected and stuff.
I mean, they did that.
Just acknowledge that they actually exist in other universes.
They did it in the Flash, didn't they? The TV series.
Yes.
Because didn't they show?
Well, that's how
did they show the film in it, or did they? I know they showed Tom Welling, didn't they? Like Smallville.
They did show some of the TV stuff. They didn't show the film stuff.
But I mean, I remember when it happened, because that was when it was. I enjoyed it. Then.
And
I remember when it happened. I was like, flipping, Smallville's in there and everything. It's so,
and that would be quality.
Yeah, something like, even if it's just you see it, because then it just explains everything.
Yeah.
But I suppose you don't really need it.
No,
really.
But now that we've had Thanos, and we are going to have like literally like universe destroying levels of whatever happens in Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I want them just to go, right, let's bring it right back down.
That's
let's
the
bring
hope.
I think
otherwise it's like, we've destroyed existence.
Yeah.
I think this is why the Fox deal is probably a big part of why they've done it, because they need something else, and like they can't have a whole wave of characters that people don't know because it's not good enough. Like,
I think
so they need the X-Men.
Yeah,
like that is X-Men is a massive one to get back, and then Fantastic Four is fairly big. I don't know how big it is for them now that it's been.
They build it back
poorly.
up again.
Yeah.
The moment they got it, that comic will come back out and they will build them back up again.
Oh yeah, I mean there's some amazing Fantastic Four stories.
Oh yeah.
But trouble is they're the like link between everything. And
they're the first. They've already made family, aren't they?
Yeah, they've already made those links. So I don't really know what they'll do.
It'd be interesting to see how they did it.
That probably would be like for the Joker. That probably would be better, like you say, to do it much smaller scale. And do it as like change the genre up a bit, because I think that's like you say the problem is you're getting fatigued with them because they're all superhero movies, and like to the point now where they're so formulaic. It's just like you don't need to go see it to know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, like
just watch the trailer. Get those beats.
Cool.
Like, I felt this is another thing with Black Panther. Like one of the biggest criticisms that Marvel gets is that they have the same villain. The villain's like a mirror.
Yeah.
And it was, spoiler alert, literally a mirror fight. Black Panther is fighting.
Which at times is a little confusing.
Yeah, and it was just like, what? Like, why
luckily
did you do that?
Yeah, luckily though, it's.
It didn't. I mean, it wasn't really.
No, but luckily,
when I saw that,
Michael B. Jordan is so good in it. I really enjoy him in it. That like I bought him as a really good villain. So by the time he got to the end fight, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this. If he hadn't been any good, by that last fight, I'd have been like, ugh.
Yeah.
Another person, another version of it. This is the Wasp. This is Ironmonger.
It was like, I wish he just had a different suit.
Something.
Because didn't she like program that suit to him or something?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It doesn't matter anyway. But like,
magics and science.
But that's it. Yeah.
Reasons.
That's it. Prep time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's not enough psychology behind him, and that's why.
No.
Yeah.
That's why
Joker's
so interesting.
Can you imagine like a
psychological thriller Joker film?
That's it. Like like instead of the Joker, like the Joker being treated like Hannibal Lecter. Like truly dangerous.
Yeah.
Or even doing like a noir.
Yeah.
Like real sort of like
Long Halloween.
Yeah.
They need to do it. Like it's
something like that.
Because it's such a good story. You can put everyone in it.
Yeah.
Without having to really. He doesn't have to. They don't.
They use a lot. The thing is, they use a lot of the elements in Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and that sort of thing.
I mean, Dark Knight's like the Two-Face stuff is very similar.
But there are so many things. There are other noir Batman stories. I love to see used. and like I say, change up the genre. This is why I'm really quite looking forward to like New Mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how that pans out.
It looks like a horror film.
It
Like,
does,
this
yeah.
looks quality. This
It
feels
feels
really
like-
interesting.
It feels like they saw what Legion did,
Yeah.
and they were like, go with that. Do
Yeah.
more. Do more.
Yeah.
Well, this is why,
Make
and
it
I think,
scarier.
yeah. This is why I think I'm, and I'm going to be on this track, and you tweeted me the photo the other day. It showed that there's an episode of Teen Titans coming up, written by Jeff Johns, called Doom Patrol,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh!
I know. I got when I saw that, it was like, what? Because I was at first, I was just like, it's just going to be another Flash, because it's all that stuff. It's all exactly the same as well. That is really formulaic.
Oh, I don't watch any of them now.
No,
Like 3 seasons in, I was like, wow, this is very similar to what happened before. I'm
But then-
completely lost.
When I saw that the other day, I was like, I will end up watching. There's no way I'm not going to watch it now.
I'll have to watch at least
Yeah.
that episode.
Until
It's
it's-
only episode 5, so I was like, right, I'll watch the
Yeah.
first bit and I'll.
But it's
I'll
not.
watch that.
I don't think it is made by the same people, is it? As they did Flash in that. Because
No, it's not in the CW. It's
DC have got Warner Brothers have got their own streaming thing, haven't they?
apparently yeah.
And that's what the new Young Justice is going to be on.
Right.
Yeah. So there might be like I think it'll be on like it'll be on one of those channels, Hulu or whatever
Yeah.
channel they be.
So
But it's
I mean, it could be crap, but it could be really good.
well the costume designs and stuff I've seen so far, the concept art look really good.
Yeah.
But I mean if that and I sort of after that I sort of tweeted out after I was saying like if we're now going to have like all these formulaic, pretty standard superhero shows, like people that love those. I mean, Supernatural is now on its like 11th, 12th season. I mean, those going to last. There is an audience for those, right? But now you've got like Legion, and you've got other things that are introduced in high concept, like Westworld, and all this other stuff. I'm like, right, I want to see a full, all-out, balls to the wall Doom Patrol TV show.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
That's what I want.
Yeah. But there's so many characters you could do that with.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, anything Grant Morrison's done.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the thing, I think Doom Patrol would be an access point of. I mean, you could even have it in the CW universe if you really wanted, but make it like other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here's the
I
stuff
think
the
a
Flash
lot-
and Green Arrow like won't touch.
Yeah.
Because that's when you could bring Constantine into it and Swamp Thing and all these other like sidelined heroes. But I just think a TV show that's done. Just leave that alone. Do it on its own. Do it as a proper show where if they acknowledge. There
why
are
not?
heroes, but we deal with the really twisted stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the Men from Nowhere or
And just the really
other bits.
like so, like just out there characters and like all the flipping what's his name, Strongman,
Flex Mentallo.
Flex Mentallo stuff.
I'd love to see that on
Yeah.
TV.
I mean, I might just a Flex Mentallo series. There's just one series that is that story.
Yeah.
I would be so happy.
But I'd love to see him introduced, like say,
Yeah.
they
I mean,
introduced
yeah.
the concept of Danny the Street. Of
Yeah.
having it
Yeah.
here all over the world, and then like you're saying, then introducing Flex Mentallo, and then saying to Grant Morrison, "Could you haven't got to write the dialogue? But
Just-
do you know what? Could you plot an arc for us? And
Yeah.
we'll do some stuff like, or even
Because pretty much everything in it is of its own sort of. You don't have to borrow from anything, do you?
no.
There's
do what you
it's
want.
all got its own villains and it's contained.
There is the only time it ever sort of like transverses over in many of the runs. Every now and then, like characters like Constantine pop up and Swamp.
It's usually
Thing and-
Vertigo ones. isn't
Vertigo
it?
characters will pop up in
It's
there.
like Sandman.
Yeah, they'll pop up in it. But other than
Yeah.
that, like in the early Doom Patrol, at one point, like the Justice League come in, they're like, nope,
Yeah.
not touching this.
I don't know what this
It's
is.
too weird,
Yeah.
and leave them to it. But you could introduce all kinds of like crazy ass concepts. I mean, it's one of those things. I think with Doom Patrol is one of those books. It's like we go back to Batman. Like there are certain runs you always go, oh yeah, I really love the Snyder run. I love like you have Denny O'Neil and was it Neil Adams, and then then you go, oh, okay, well there's that and Frank Miller or whatever. There's lots and lots and lots of them.
Yeah.
But with Doom Patrol, there's like Grant Morrison's the only run I really think, and now Gerard Way is doing something I think is amazing. I just wish he would fucking write faster.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that sort of event at the moment, aren't they?
I'm going to get that in trade. The Milk Wars. It looks interesting. It looks really interesting.
I've read two of them. The first one was good.
The Superman
second one
and
wasn't great. The Batman one. It wasn't bad. It's just
I'm going to wait for it to be collected. I think
I probably would.
I'll get it, put it on Comixology or something. But
I think it'll be like one of them where the odd issue isn't great, but then
yeah.
you've read the actual issues of each one, so if you're
Yeah.
into one of them, then you'll know what to expect.
Yeah, because I like Shade the
It's the same
Changing
writers.
Girl. I've read some of the Carson, and they've all been really good. So I'll be interested to see how that sort of pans out. But I'd love to see someone actually just take the risk of doing that.
Well,
And
there
say,
is one.
in this show. Some episodes could be horror. Some episodes are going to be like complete out and out fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some shows, you're probably not going to know what's going on.
I mean, imagine this: Doom Patrol against Joker,
See, that'd be mental.
because it just would be mental.
Yeah, like you could just unleash it.
Yeah.
I think they'd be a bit like, I don't know.
No one would know what to
I
do.
don't know what's going. I don't know what I'm reading right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, I think that'd be amazing. Like,
Yeah.
that's a villain that I think
It's like
could take
over,
on.
like just ridiculousness.
Yeah.
He thinks he's crazy, and then he meets them, and he's like, I'm not sure how to take these guys down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's the thing. I think the villain could. That'd be really. I like that now.
Yeah,
I want to
there
see
you go.
that.
That's it.
I want to see the Joker take on the Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Right, we shall start wrapping up then. But before we do then, let's just throw out there. So, two versions of the Joker. What are your two favourite versions of the Joker? Or the two that always spring to mind when you think of the character?
What, like
Any version of
comics,
all.
or
Comics,
film,
TV,
or
film, anything.
everything.
All media. What's the version of the Joker that you always go back to?
Animated series
Oh man.
is,
Yeah.
I think, probably
Mark Hamill's
yeah,
Joker.
and sort of the because you can with the games as well. It evolves and it's still the same because it's still Paul Dini. It's still the same team, at least with the first two. And I just thought what they did was like that was a proper Joker story from say because I mean what Mask of Phantasm, that's another Joker origin story, isn't it?
Yes.
And
To an extent,
and that's a pretty much a gangster one.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
really
probably
good.
I think my favourite Batman film.
It is a really good
all time.
animated film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and as well, like when you watch the Return of the Joker and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of it's down to the stories anyway. But he is, I think the Mark Hamill Joker is sort of the definitive.
Yeah.
What I'd say that's how most people
Hear
at least
it.
hear it. Yeah, like when you read
That's
it.
how I always hear it.
yeah,
I never read it.
Yeah, and then
I don't envy. That's why when I've seen when you have someone doing like the guy who did whoever voiced it was did the Batman.
Yeah.
Because the character design was so different. Like he could take it. He was lucky enough to take it in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And the same when they did the Brave and the Bold,
Yeah.
they went back. It was quite a squeaky version.
Yeah.
But then when you have like the follow-on, when they did like Under the Red Hood,
yeah,
and
it was John DiMaggio.
It was
Yeah,
John
it was,
DiMaggio.
like thug.
yeah, and it was really interesting. Like people have taken it a different way.
Yeah,
But you're always following in the
you can't.
There are
that's
certain
the
things.
The trouble is you can't do anything that anyone's going to be like.
That's
That's
Mark
it.
Hamill.
Yeah.
That's the new Joker. It's always going to be like you can tell they're trying to be different because of Mark Hamill's
There's
Joker.
certain things that are like you say. There are certain things that are actively saying can't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's too Mark Hamill.
yeah.
But then he had like all those episodes to
Yeah.
get it right over.
I mean, to say I don't know. To say a comic version seems strange because it does, even though it obviously it changes, and the only time it changes doesn't feel like the real Joker. If when it like Frank Miller's Joker, I've never really
Taking it as the
I
joke.
didn't mind in Dark Knight Returns because it's when they're old and it is different. But when you look at it in like All Star and he was serious.
Yeah,
I didn't-
All-Star Batman and Robin
Yeah.
Joker is Jared Leto.
Yeah, and that's and it's crap.
Yeah.
It's crap in the books.
It
So
doesn't-
it's really crap in film. But it's just like
It was.
yeah.
Doesn't
So
work.
it's hard to say to pick a comic one because I feel like we said before, it all feels like the same one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick to
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, and then for a second, well, it was two on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Come back to me. You do one.
Alright.
You do one at a time.
Yeah.
Unless
Well,
you've got both.
no, I was going to say Hamill anyway, but yeah.
You can also because Mark Hamill is the definitive
Yeah.
Joker.
I mean,
Like,
that's
he's
probably
he's a Joker for a generation.
like you say, that's the one that I read him as, you know.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that's my go-to.
I'd probably say Caesar Romero.
Yeah.
Because that's like that's the first live action Joker, and then it's not. I mean, you look at Mark Hamill's; it's not too dissimilar
No.
to that. So it does sort of birth from.
Yeah.
I know. I don't think it did come from that, but it's not. It's not.
There's always a
Yeah.
core
There's a-
element that
yeah.
goes through.
Yeah.
And it looks the same. Like they
Yeah,
keep
and
the
it like
coat
if you
and the
read
hat.
the old issues,
Uh,
he sounds he speaks as he does,
yeah.
and when he laughs, like the fact that he goes hoo like hoo, because he was always ho ho.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
when you read the old ones, that's how
Yeah.
he laughed.
Yeah.
So he did like, I don't know if he probably never read it,
Yeah.
but it feels like he did. But I suppose it was written. I mean, some of the episodes were written by Bill Finger, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it's probably written exactly.
Someone was on set must have been giving him like not just the director but someone from
I don't
DC
think. I
was
don't think they
probably-
really cared
no.
because it wasn't important. No, and like I know the guy that produced it. I can't remember his name now. It's always on the start of the episodes.
Mm.
He hated it. He didn't hate the show. He hated the books. And the
Yeah.
reason he wanted to make the show was because he wanted to show how crap it was. And that was like
Can you
the
imagine
whole
that?
thing.
I'm producing this TV show just to be
just
vindictive.
to show how
I
rubbish
want
it
this to
is.
fail.
Yeah. It's
I
like,
know.
like,
I
he
know.
knew it
It's
would be
become really
successful.
successful.
and like arguably the reason that like we've got all these films now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he'd never made that show, sort
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, I'd probably say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think he's one of the like, that's why it upsets me so much about the latest version of the Joker because before him, I don't think there was a bad version of the Joker.
I know, yeah. I was going
Like-
to say, like, at the start, I was like,
It-
there
like-
isn't really but it's because I've wiped it from my
Yeah,
memory.
and it's like it's really funny because I feel
I
like
haven't
can't
watched
say
Suicide
that.
Squad since the cinema.
Yeah.
No,
I
haven't
hated
either.
it that
Yeah,
much.
I don't intend to.
And
No.
I don't. Yeah, it's one of the things. Like, every now and then I'll see it in like CEX or something or online for like a couple of quid. I think,
Yeah.
should I? And they go, no, I
Nice.
shouldn't. Move on.
Yeah, I should
Yeah.
be paying you that.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, like because even Jack Nicholson's Joker was really good.
Yeah.
That's the one I was going to call out.
Yeah.
Jack
Yeah.
Nicholson's Joker, for me, was almost like that's when I first
Yeah.
saw it, and I mean, there's elements of that are ludicrous. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the fact that the moment that he's being shot at, the Batwing's coming down,
Yeah.
and he pulls out the gun that just
It's
keeps
just
coming
super
out of his
long,
trousers,
so
which
good.
is so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's just,
I
yeah.
love that.
And he just shoots his plane down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I love
It's-
the laughing bag at the end as well.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
that's
great,
so
yeah.
good. Like,
yeah.
That's
just-
creepy as
yeah.
that is.
yeah, I thought Nicholson.
And I think as well, like,
Nicholson's Joker was
Yeah.
really
I
good.
mean, it's almost just because everyone likes him so much that you're just like whatever. But Heath Ledger
Yeah.
is actually.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is amazing. It's
Mm.
Seems like a
yeah,
easy
it's just
answer,
one of those things.
like,
Yeah,
so-
it's like, but he did do like it was something different
Yeah.
when.
Well, he
'Cause, I mean,
defined
that's-
it in a different way, didn't he? Like
Yeah,
you said
which-
you'd had Hamill
Hmm.
be the animated or
You just
the
didn't-
other
yeah.
and then this guy took a
It's the
completely
I think,
different track.
yeah,
and
it's
and
like it's
scored it
the
in a
only
different
one
way.
that's really different,
Mm.
but is still like you feel
Yeah.
like that's the Joker, even
Yeah.
though it's nothing like any of the. Like I don't even think I don't know. I don't feel like you could read his voice when you were reading the comics.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
No.
Maybe I don't know.
No,
I
I,
don't-
always feel I feel he's too separate
Yeah,
from it.
but but for him to do that,
That's good.
and you still think
Yeah.
he is
Yeah.
he is the Joker.
Yeah.
That is
It's
that
it's
is
a
good.
look for me, and I think one of the reasons. I mean, he was relatively portly in his, and he was in his late 40s, early 50s when he did it. But Nicholson's Joker looks the Joker to me. Like, he's got
Yeah.
the- he's wearing almost like the 3-piece suit, and
Yeah.
it's the orange shirt and the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the purple. It looks
Yeah.
awesome.
His
Was that-
face though
it's
as
the-
well, like the casting is like.
I was just say because he's
like,
got the grin anyway.
He's got that grin.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
then
like.
they gave the prosthetics to give it that
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of
Yeah.
shape.
But like, yeah, I like the idea that like, you know, like if there is like an iteration of the Joker, like Nicholson's the Joker, and then he's in The Shining, and then he's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Yeah.
and it's like he has been insane like over and
Yeah.
over again,
Yeah.
and like maybe
Yeah.
he is some sort of like
And it's
filtered
always
down,
yeah,
diluted
it's
version of
it.
the Joker.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's it. When you talk about origin stories, like with him being Jack Napier and then that whole thing again, it makes it personal. For years, that was when I was a kid. I didn't really read. I never got that deep into the comics as a kid. That was to me that's how they're tied together.
that's
The Batman
what
and
it was,
Joker
yeah.
is sort of like that. But yeah, I always love that Batman. And I like to say the fact he does the TV advert when he uses the dead models, but then puts the superimposed mouths on. That's
I think
proper
it's
sick.
one of those things where like the Joker, other than the latest one, has always been like you've always felt like they've got him right. That is the Joker.
Yeah.
Batman, you cannot say the same thing about.
No.
The only one that was probably the same is Adam West. Like the rest of them, like everyone moaned that Ben Affleck kills everyone.
Yeah.
Well, flipping Michael Keaton's trigger happy.
Yeah.
He just drops a bomb in a factory and like
I
clears
dropped
off
it.
like
I
with a
wrote
grin on his
about-
face.
I wrote about this the other week, and I was like, how can you consider he can't be the hero in it because he literally blows up a factory with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, he drops a stick of dynamite down some poor sucker's
And he
pants.
laughs, kicks him in that hole,
Smirks about it.
shuts the door, won't
Yeah.
let him out, and then laughs as it goes off. And
He's
then
just
like
as bad as that.
you could even look at it as like the Joker. You
Broken.
know, when he's got that plane
Yeah.
and he's shooting a machine gun with
Yeah.
the Batwing,
Yeah.
and he shoots him down. Like
Yeah.
Joker's the good guy.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
Because there's shrapnel and shit
Yeah,
flying
that's
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to defend these people.
Yeah.
Pull out the massive
And
gun.
Christian Bale doesn't solve a single mystery.
No.
No.
He just punches people until he gets an answer.
Yeah.
So does Batfleck. I mean,
Yeah.
Batfleck is an extension of the Arkham games, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He looks cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like his Bruce Wayne.
I think he
Yeah.
was the first one to scare me.
Yeah.
And it's just, you
Yeah.
know that scene where he's on the ceiling?
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, really, I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. He
but
looks
yeah,
like, but again, they took it to winning Justice League when he's wearing like the armoured stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it's just you've taken too far again.
Too much.
You're up to 11, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you might as well have silver
'cause,
nipples on the damn thing
Yeah,
again.
being one of like the few people that enjoyed Batman vs Superman,
Yeah.
I was like went into Justice League a bit worried, but like, well, you know, I enjoyed them, but then watched it and I was like, well, I don't even feel like I enjoyed them anymore.
Yeah.
I was just
It's-
like,
it's-
that
it's-
was just
it's
so lame.
actually
Yeah.
ruined the previous
Yeah.
film. But I agree. I think they've always they've never quite got Batman right on live action.
Yeah, except for Adam West, I do think at the time.
Yeah, but that's a representation of like Silver Age silliness, isn't
Yeah.
it? Which is true.
Which is what it was.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing in it.
But they've always sort of, you know, I don't think they've ever
I
quite.
think Lego
got it.
Batman is like, even though that's ridiculous,
Yeah.
they have more in line with the actual character.
Yeah.
They full on pinned down his fear of
Yeah.
like it was really that was psychological,
Yeah.
and that he was afraid to lose his family
Yeah.
again. It's just
Yeah.
like,
It is,
how is this the closest we've
Yeah.
had?
Yeah. How is this the best Batman film we've had in so many
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
I prefer Zach Galifianakis' Joker to.
Oh,
Joe.
yeah.
Oh,
Joker.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's
There's
a
one
great
with
one.
this.
And when he
Yeah.
tells him, he's like, I fight around. He's
Yeah.
getting really upset.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. I think you can have. I mean, when you watch Batman '89, even and when you watch the Tim Burton Batman, Tim Burton admitted like he was never interested in
Never,
Batman.
Yeah.
It was
Even
always the
villains.
villains that interested him because they're freaks and he loves
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And you can see that.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
do
I'd
think
be scared
that
if
is-
he brought it back. If he were to give it back to Burton now,
Yeah.
you'd end up with Tim Burton as like the Joker.
Yeah.
I think
Which I hate.
that's the problem with Batman Returns is that he went too far. I think with it.
Yeah, it was
Like it was just like because Batman's only in it for like 20 minutes. I think if you count up the amount
as
of
in Cowl.
like
Yeah.
but I think even with Bruce Wayne, it's not much more because it's
So
all
penguin.
about like
Yeah.
so much about the villains.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
Oh
but
yeah, I mean, I
whereas
love it.
the
I
first
will admit,
one-
I love those two films.
yeah,
But you're right. It's not. It's
Yeah.
more about Penguin and Max Schreck and all that
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
it is about Batman. But it does contain two of my favourite Batman moments of it ever.
yeah,
Is which is the silliest things ever. Is the moment like all the floodlights come on the Wayne Manor. And they all turn in to tell him,
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
you know, that things come on. And he's got the glass. He's basically sat there brooding in the dark.
classic.
And he gets up, and the bat symbol's behind him, and it looks badass.
Yeah.
But at no point does anyone go, "You ever seen that Wayne Manor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got
It's
bat
got
symbols
bats
all
all
over
over
it. It's really weird." And then actually the bit, like say, where he's got the penguins taking over the Batmobile,
Yeah,
and he's
Yeah.
driving it, and then
Yeah.
but the penguin's sat in a little mini
Yeah.
Batmobile. It's possibly one of my favourite things ever.
yeah. It's
So-
just, yeah.
It's
And then the
daft
first
and
one's
silly,
got some
but-
like corkers as well.
Yeah.
Hasn't it? Like,
yeah, still, yeah.
You want to get nuts?
let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
That was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
I'm
Like,
not surprised. He's
Yeah.
not very Batman at
Michael
all.
Keaton,
Yeah.
Michael Keaton was like, I want to do this, and
Yeah.
they're like, all right,
All right,
see
yeah.
what happens.
I love that bit as well because like he flips out and then Joker just like shoot him straight away.
that's
It was
what-
just like hits the floor and it's just
Yeah.
like that's it. It's
But
all
that's
over.
totally like the Joker again.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. Like, you
Yeah.
could have engaged him in like banter, or he's
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
This is the best thing for the moment. This is
Yeah.
the best gag for the moment.
Yeah, this is
It's
the
just like
punchline.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Yeah. So many good.
Which is a great line.
Yeah.
And just
So
like,
he's legit funny. I think Nicholson.
have you ever
Joker's
danced with the
legit
devil
funny.
in the pale moon?
Yeah.
And it's like, does what?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that? got to do with
I
anything?
just like the
You
way
just
it
say-
sounds.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
good.
You want to hit a man with glasses? Would you?
He punches him in the mouth and he takes the effort to spit chattering teeth out
Yeah.
again. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
this guy's gone to a
Yeah.
lot of effort for
Yeah.
this. I love it.
There's, yeah, he's a good character, and we've been lucky to have good versions.
Yeah.
For like the whole time he's been like spot, but I suppose because he's such an easy character for us to understand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is weird for considering how psychotic he is. But like,
Maybe
it's
that's
just
it.
But he can be.
Yeah,
Because he's so
that's what I'm saying
versatile.
about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is that some psychologists are going to hear this episode and be like, "Well, those three
Yeah.
should probably not be on the streets."
Yeah. Tick tick tick.
but Hollywood's the same.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hollywood's
Yeah.
the
But
same.
the thing is, because he can be so versatile, like, you can do different things with him, and they can all be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But we've now learned, like I say, you watch Cesar Romero, and it fits that show. Like,
Yeah.
he's a spot on.
Oh, he has a moustache.
Yeah, I love the fact that
There's-
like, the actor was like, "No, I'm
Yeah.
not shaving this
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
We'll just paint
But
over
it almost
it."
feels like that's a very Joker thing
Yeah,
to do.
it's fine.
Yeah.
To
To
grow-
have a
grow
moustache.
beard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, he's pitch perfect for that show.
Yeah.
Nicholson was pitch perfect, I
Yeah.
think, for.
Yeah.
I think Hamill was pitch perfect on the animated show. You've always had good
Yeah.
versions that like have
Yeah.
nailed it for that iteration
Yeah.
until now.
Till
Yeah.
now.
That's what I'm saying.
But then, like you say,
Yeah.
we didn't even think,
Yeah.
is that Galifianakis?
Marcus, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
my replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that version is
For
very
that
good.
film,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
perfect.
To be fair to Leto, though, I wouldn't have wanted to take that spot. Do you know what I mean? Who was going to take the spot and be like after Heath?
Yeah.
And after, because
Yeah.
of how big it all blew up and everything.
But then
like,
to do
it's
that
just-
as
well,
well,
I know,
do you know what
yeah.
I
But
mean?
it's that thing of like, I can clearly see why, because they thought we've got to go a very, you've had
different
Nicholson's Joker, and you've
Yeah.
had Ledger's Joker, now we've
Yeah.
got to go a completely different way.
Yeah.
But like that was just the wrong way.
Oh yeah, that was definitely the
Yeah.
wrong way.
The
but
thing is, I would even say like, even if they'd have gone the Batman route
Yeah.
and had someone with like dreads and
Yeah.
It
would have been
would have
more
been,
interesting
Yeah.
than this shitty grilled up gangster rapper
Yeah.
from 2008.
Yeah.
It was rubbish.
yeah,
I don't know how Harley Quinn would have fallen in love with him.
Yeah.
I wasn't even that bothered about
Yeah.
until I watched it. I was like,
Mm.
Harley Quinn, I love the animated series,
Yeah.
and whatever, they'll do it. I'm not that fussed. And then when I watched it, it was just like, why does she like him? Because he's a dick to her like he is in the cartoon and the
Yeah.
books and whatever. But I just don't understand why she fell in love with him in the first. Like when
Yeah.
she's interviewing him and
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
like who's like, look at him,
Yeah.
he's a catch.
Well, this is the thing. In the animated
What a
series, like, they
dish.
when you watch like Mad Love, and they portray that like she was broken as well, and she
Yeah.
was looking to prove herself. Like it gives it that little bit of an
Yeah.
edge.
Yeah.
Like, she was. There's almost like it could have been anyone. It just so happened to be the
Yeah.
Joker that
Yeah.
pushed her over the edge.
Yeah,
But like you say, it's because of his charisma and his like you say all that.
yeah.
But like
You
the
can
Leto
like
Joker's
you
got
you
no
can believe
charisma,
it. Like you can believe it
Yeah.
when you read it. You're like,
Yeah.
and you feel sorry for her. You're like, oh,
yeah,
because we like everyone at some point has fallen for someone that's bad for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
Unless you're really lucky, but
Yeah.
like,
Or
everyone's-
really unlucky. You've
Yeah,
read it.
yeah. But like, you can see that. Whereas with this, you're just like, well, you're an idiot.
yeah.
I don't feel any sympathy for you,
No.
you
Yeah.
weirdo.
It all and it's one of those things because again, like Suicide Squad wasn't a good film.
Yeah.
No.
In any
Full
sense.
stop.
And this is it, like, we've talked about villains, and how well, like, if done well,
Yeah.
they can be amazing.
And DC's got the best ones.
And
Yeah.
those are those ones, and then you get Suicide Squad is
Yeah.
what they produce.
Yeah.
Just goes to show to me that like how little. How
Yeah.
little thought was put into this.
Yeah.
It was like we want to do something that looks cool.
I would
Yeah.
rather watch
That's
a film
all they thought about.
Whiplash, Yellow Jacket,
Yeah.
that lame elf from Thor 2,
Yeah.
and I don't know, Ronin from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd rather see them in a team fighting crime
Yeah.
than I would this bunch of losers. It's
Yeah,
really
Suicide Squad
disappointing. Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
you know some of the characterization and the performances are okay.
Yeah,
in the
it's-
sense of like I
Right.
wouldn't be upset if Will Smith came back as
No,
Deadshot.
yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
to be
upset
fair, like
Yeah.
if Margot Robbie came back.
she
as
was
Harley
good
Quinn.
as Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be upset if like the Spanish dude with all the fire
Yeah.
Yeah.
came back.
I'd like to see Slipknot again as well, since he was
Slipknot,
the
yeah,
best character.
Absolutely.
Underused.
Stole the
Yeah.
show. Oh yeah.
But there's bits and pieces in that. For like, I think some of the characters, like each of them gets a good-ish moment. And,
Yeah.
You know, but then like it just felt so like you've got these great characters that you could do
Yeah.
hugely imaginative things with, and you just pissed it
But
away.
but as well, why I don't really like Suicide Squad anyway. But why make it now?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you'd seen them all at some point, and
Yeah.
then like even if like Boomerang's in Flash for as long as Flash was in Suicide Squad, like even if it's literally at the start of a film, and then you see him later on, I get it. But like, because especially Boomerang, because it's like, what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's a character that you're like when you first you're like, oh, you can tell when this was made, like when he came about.
Yeah.
But you put him in as a stupid character, and then he pops up later. You're like,
Yeah.
I'll flip it
I
as
have
if they
this
used
guy.
him again. That's
Yeah.
it. And
Well,
it's-
yeah, but he was clearly the Deadpool character,
yeah, I mean,
and that was the
but
thing.
The
like,
trouble
that
is,
was
so
the
is
problem
Harley
with
Quinn.
Yeah, that was the problem with Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And those villains is they tried to make it a Deadpool-esque
Yeah.
comedy, you know, R-rated action
Yeah.
film, but then pulled their punches.
Yeah.
So they got to the end of it and like, well, they're not killing people.
Yeah.
It's all bobble-headed little weirdo things.
yeah.
And who's the baddie? Well, the baddie's actually one of them, and it's and then
Yeah.
spoilers. Actually, this whole thing's about them saving Amanda Waller and the
Yeah.
So actually, the worst
To be
person in this
fair-
film is Amanda Waller.
Yeah, and she was also the best thing about the film.
And she was the best. Yeah. So it's sort of like I remember leaving the film just thinking, it's like just what you before, missed opportunity
Yeah.
throughout, and
Yeah.
it's been so like I want to see a good solid. I love a good solid villain,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that like Marvel have gone down certain routes with some of them. But I'm tired of seeing sympathetic villains. You know, they were wronged, and so they sort of they have a justification, or they're a corporate baddie. Ooh,
Yeah.
like Ant-Man always does. I want to see someone who's just twisted and wants to do
Yeah.
damage,
Yeah.
like bring like the Heath Ledger style Joker. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a
But
good
there's
solid villain.
I mean, he's not the only one, is he? That's the thing. I mean, he is the ultimate one. But there's plenty of villains they've got that they can use, and I don't know.
I don't think there's been like has there really been like a sort of overly satisfying comic adaptation yet? Like, because they're saying that the comics are storyboards.
I mean, literally an adaptation.
Yeah.
Something that's like they've taken that, they put it on screen, and like it's.
Have they even done
Have they even done
an adaptation?
No, I think
No, not direct.
they cherry pick, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
And then you end up with like something that doesn't necessarily
That's
work.
it.
Yeah.
They
Right.
always the thing is when you get to Hollywood, they always the villain's got to have a motivation. So
Yeah.
even for like when you look at like Civil War,
Yeah.
and it's a pretty good film. It's a good action film. It's a cracking film. I really enjoy it.
It's a really well made filler.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
But yeah,
But then you sort of look at the baddie in it, and you go, okay, so he ties back to Age of Ultron,
Yeah.
and I get his justification. Like his actions in that film
yeah.
make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, some of the way it rolls out is a little bit coincidental,
Yeah.
and stuff, but
Yeah.
regardless of that, I understand his motivation.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
That's someone I'm going to accept. Fine, move on. That's a good sort of like it's a progression of a story, especially with Captain America. Progression of a story. Right, now I want someone who just wants to why do they constantly have to have this thing?
Yeah.
Why can't they just be bad people that
Yeah.
want it, and it's like just so happens that they're gonna
Yeah.
each one has to have some time to
Yeah.
even back like Whiplash. in Iron Man 2. Oh yeah, your dad wronged me. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
why can't there just be bad people around?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just tired of having to constantly rest on the thing of like, oh, so they're this and they're that.
Yeah.
No. I was just raised a criminal. I'm still a criminal,
Yeah.
and now I've
Yeah.
got this tech, and I'm going to blow shit up, or I'm going to try
I'm
and do
just
this.
a bad
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
That is literally. I'm just a bit unstable, and
Yeah.
that's the way it goes.
So we started with a joke. I think we've just covered all villains,
Yeah,
which has
yeah.
actually been really quite good fun.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you for coming back on and
welcome,
and bringing your comic book guy knowledge again across all.
Which
platforms.
knowledge everywhere.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That was me and the comic book guys, Matt and Jordan, diving into the dark, dismal world of comic book villains, starting with the Joker and moving on to all kinds of things from vengeance and crime and everything else. I can't think of anything other bad. But it was great. If you've got any thoughts on villains you love, villains you hate, villains you think should be on big screen, or villains you'd like to see more of in comics, let me know. Get in contact. It'd be great to hear from you. And if you want to get in contact, we have an email address, 20thcenturygeek@gmail.com, or I'm on Twitter @20thcenturygeek. And we're on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, all under 20th Century Geek. Please seek us out and see what we're offering. Okay, the big one as well, I should always remember, help us keep the lights on. We also have a Patreon page. Look for 20th Century Geek Podcast on Patreon, and just maybe throw us a couple of pennies. It's all appreciated. Okay, next episode, Julian Darius is back. We talked about the Killing Joke, but now we're actually going to dig a little deeper into the psychology of the Joker and provide a real analytical view of the crazed clown. So, have a good week, and I'll see you next time.